Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday night edition of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for tuning us in as we have Merle. Say it with me. Merle. Say his name and he appears. I believe in Merle Hendry. There you go, Merle. Jacob Rice is going to join us as well. We're going to get into all things paranormal, but the best part about tonight, we have each and every one of you. Yes, we do, including Eternity Eternal in the gold medal position. Kitty Caddywhack with a silver. Tim Mothman in his goatee sharing the bronze medal tonight. Robert Lamoth, Marie Kay, how are you? Good to see you. As we continue on with our roll call, there's little Timmy James in studio and kicking off the Merling right there. Necessary Dialogue in the studio. Mel WD-40 is here, lubing us up for tonight's show. Because the one thing Jacob Rice says when he comes on this show, he says, I need Mel to lube me up. If you want my best paranormal stories, Mel has to lube me the F up. So Mel is lubing up Jake as we speak. He's only got about a minute or two left before he'll be done. All right, continuing on, Paramarv, good to see you. And who's next on our list? Frankie B. Cody Eiler is here. Cody Eiler will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Hi there, Amanda. Luscious Jules, good to see you. Fast Hemi. Bobbert Gray, good to have you here. Tartar Sauce, how you doing? Ozzy Ange is here. Ozzy Ange will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Flat 6 and number 4 in your program, starting on defense from Stockholm, Sweden. Lars Jansson, there he is. Tracy Alien Girl, nice to see you. Lisa Smith, thank you for joining us tonight. And Kathy Evans, good to have you here. Ozzy, thanks for coming on in. And look at Tartar Sauce, Merling away right there. Merle's in the chat room. Jake, thank you so much for kicking off the super chat tonight. Not only are you a guest, but we appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio, my friend. Thank you very, very much. Enjoy your lubing. All right, moving on here. Ozzy's Merling it on up. And so is Jules and race fan. Walter Kochabinski, how are you? Enki, nice to see you. And who is next? Let's see here. We have, let's go that way. Lots of Merling. Undead Jed, nice to see you. Mike Rivers, thanks for coming on in. And Grantavius the Maximus. Hey, if you're up after the show, call me. I want to chat with you quickly, if you don't mind. Kitty Caddywhack, thank you for that awesome super chat. Greatly appreciate your love and support of SOR, Kitty. Thank you very, very much. Oh, man, am I going slow tonight? And just Merling it up right there as she prepares for the autographs. And Hippie Deidre, nice to see you. How's the Birkenstocks? Let us know if you don't mind. Bobbert Birkins, how are you tonight? Nice to have you here, Bobbert. And let's see here. Scrolling on down. Contrary One, nice to see you. Mel's lubing and merling at the same time. Good job, Mel. Yeah. All right, we're caught up. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for being here as we're going to have a good time with our main man, Merle, and Jacob Rice, who's getting lubed up as we speak. Oob to Joe's Maine. You've got aliens as we continue on with our roll call here. And reminder to all of you that, you know what, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. And if you're coming over from the UFO Max show with Lee and Grant, I hope you guys had a good time there. I was tuning on in. It was a lot of fun watching them get into the UFO stories. So that is always a great thing that happens. And they do a great show. Don't forget, the Super Chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much. Hi, Carla. Jerence Carter. Sensational Sherry. Good to have you all here, as I know more people are going to hop on in. But right now, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to throw those horns up. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods, where together, my friends, we own the night. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a fantastic show of paranormal talk tonight. Merle is back from the Paranormal Road Trippers to talk all things ghostly on Ghosts of the Great White North. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller is going to bring us another spooky story. We're going to follow that up with Little Timmy James in studio with the UFO Report. Yes, it's that time of the night, that time of the month, when we bring on our main paranormal man, Merle, for Ghosts of the Great White North. And we love it when Merle is here because we really delve into what a ghost is. What is a haunting? What is a spirit? What tools should we use? And which ones should we avoid? It's a lot of fun when we go through spooky hollows as well as haunted buildings and even haunted forests. Is there a combination of what's going on out there under the phenomena? Or are the answers a little bit more simplistic? We're going to find out tonight with our good friend Merle. And, of course, our special guest from Washington State, Jacob Rice, is here. Main man Merle, how you doing? I know you're going to I'm going to give you 45 seconds, just 45 seconds to kick my butt about my Edmonton Oilers. Just go.
Well, you ruined that. You beat me to the punch. I was going to say I wish I should have borrowed my friend's Florida Panther jersey for tonight to show you what a real team wears when they play hockey. That's all. That's all I needed to say. You lost. We won. That's all.
I'll take that. That hurts. That's right in the
Good.
right in the gut there. It hurts, but I'll take it. You know. I mean, I know, Merle, that you're not used to the word playoffs with your team, okay? I know you're not used to that. I don't know what hurts worse, is being eliminated but playing well enough down the stretch to ruin the draft pick, okay? Because you're picking 15th overall in the draft rather than in the top 5 or 6. And my team will pick 31st, out of 30th or 31st. I don't know what hurts more.
But did you hear that they all went to Connor McDavid's house yesterday to have a losing party? But when they went to go get cups for the drinks, there were none there.
Took you a while to think of that one, right? I'll give
I
you that.
had that in my sniper scope.
I'll give you
ready
that.
to go.
I will give you that. That's okay.
But
That's
onto more important news, Dave. We got one of the close friends here on the show. He's known as the man, the myth, the editor of all of the documentaries we puke out. And man, this guy, he's been going all over the Pacific Northwest and Washington doing spooky tourism. One thing I wanted to talk about is all the different locations you've gone to, Jake, in Tacoma, Everett, or all of those cities down there. But I also, that's where I want to go. And I also want to talk about the cryptids of the Pacific Northwest. I want to see you two get into that because that would be fun.
Okay. Yeah, I there are some monsters that I love that I haven't got to spend enough time looking for.
We've got a couple of monster guys here.
Jacob, let's introduce you to our audience because we definitely, many people will recognize you because you've been a previous guest on this show a few times. And I love your eloquence and the way you are able to kind of, take a step back from all the woo and really focus on looking for the real answers of what the paranormal is. For you, this adventure is a passion. It's something that you really tend to dig deep into and explore. Why do you dedicate yourself so much to it?
Oh, I think I'm just a big fan of mysteries and the unknown. And when it comes to ghosts and if there's life after death, isn't that one of the best unknowns out there? And plus, I also like, I also think it's awfully fun, even though you're sitting in a dark room asking questions to nothing for hours at a time.
When you do this, do you think that part of your job with your knowledge is to help educate people who might not be familiar? They may believe in ghosts, they may believe in hauntings, they maybe live in a haunted house, but they still may not know what it is. Do you find that you're more, as you move forward with this, more into an education style of everything?
Definitely, yes. I would say if you go out to my blog, ghostlyactivities.com, it's mainly education information. It's how to collect EVPs. If you got a ghost, based on the activity you got, what type of ghost it could be. It's just loaded with a lot of, I'll call it, newbie to intermediate ghost hunter content, lots of training videos on it as well. So I'm sharing the knowledge. There's nothing to hide.
Yet so many people try to hide things. It's funny.
I don't know why.
Funny that you
Why do
mentioned
they hide, Dave?
I don't know why.
I know.
Why are we whispering?
I get it. But I know I have learned so much about investigation technique, being my own critical memo that I have to give myself because I got to make sure that I'm not all about the woo. And even though I love the woo and love the stories that people have, when you're out in the field, you really have to try and push that to the side to look for logic rather illogic right off the bat. And I think a lot of people automatically think, due to watching television shows and watching, YouTube channels and everything, that the first reaction to everything is that it is ghostly. And to give you an example of this past weekend, Tim James and I, we were helping out at our local museum, and we were in the barn, and we've investigated that barn so much. We know the difference between what the building sounds like when it's settling, or raindrops hitting the tin roof, or birds flying around, or whatever it is, compared to something else. We actually had that question a couple of times. So it really is about getting used to your environment and being able to really break down what is natural and what is not natural, isn't it, Jake?
Yeah, very much so. And that's a very good point about knowing the haunt. well, because a lot of times you just go in, you're going to have 2 to 4 hours. You don't really know the building that well. And each place has its own kind of distinct normal signatures. For example, I had a case in Southern California, Los Angeles, and the couple that lived there could have sworn someone was walking upstairs, kind of like a crawl space of the attic. But I've went out there about 4 or 5 times, and it finally clicked. And that was, it gets so hot in Southern California, and it cools off rapidly at night because they live in the hills. The house contracts at night. And that made the sound, as the boards adjusted, it really sounded like foot, but it was always the same thing over and over again. But if you went the first time, you've been like, holy, we've got phantom footsteps. You would have recorded it, be all over the YouTube, right? Wasn't the case. It's just a house shrinking at night. So it's important to go back to your, if you can go back to a haunt, to keep going back.
How do you feel about that, Merle?
I was just going to say, I agree with that. I kind of look at it as a investigative approach instead of like a jump scare approach. I'll steal Brandon Alves's book title. Every investigation we do, I kind of have an element of a haunting instead of just a ghost hunt. And what I mean by that is you don't just go there with your gear and say, come at me, bro, knock twice, because you're not going to get anything, and you'll get house settlings like Jake did, and you'll think it's a demon. And what I mean by an elements of a haunting is you need to go to each location armed with knowing the history, the knowledge, people's experience, all their experiences they've had there, and if any other teams have been there and what sorts of evidence they've had, because you need to have all of this sort of information to kind of gauge what you're doing, because like Jake said, it's a lot of locations you only have 2 to 4 hours to do what you need to do, and you have a lot of pre-investigative things that need to be done before you even step foot on a property.
A lot of people also don't want you around. Like if you're in a public building, they have a timeline on when you are going to be there, whether it's their own home or a museum or whatever. I mean, there are real people who do want to go home at night. They don't want to lock you in the building because of insurance reasons or whatever it may be, or maybe they just got to get up for work in the morning and they're a little bit tired. I mean, so you are really battling human elements along with, trying to get the ghostly encounters too. Have you ever had a situation, Merle, we'll start with you on this one, where literally everything is popping, everything is hopping, all the action is happening right as you speak, and then somebody comes up to you and say, hey guys, like 5 more minutes and then we got to wrap it up?
No, I would say that hasn't happened to me, because if it is popping and we're getting all the information and evidence that we require, I like to bring in the property owner or the curator to experience that for a couple of reasons. A, selfishly, to give us more time, and B, it would benefit them to have a firsthand encounter, to be more open to why teams like us would need more time and would need to. You can't just stop having a conversation, especially when you're speaking to the other side, because that's why we're there, and that's why a lot of these properties will solicit us to go there. So you wanted us there, you got us.
Oh, I honestly think that's a lot of sense. Jake, have you ever had that happen to you?
Yeah, I've been booted. And it's mainly because of the city's regulations. Like if you're going to do a private residence, I would say no, because it's someone's home. They can keep you over as long as they want. But if you're investigating a business, a museum, usually you got to abide by, I'll call it bar time. You got to wrap up at 2, simply because that's when business is closed down. And it happens. So you grab what activity you were able to collect, you take it and try to reschedule a time to come back. Don't break the law, folks.
Never.
Well, it depends. If it would be a good YouTube video, then maybe.
Get the shot.
But no,
Dave,
getting the shot and getting the evidence. You guys go pretty hardcore on everything. I mean, you're building documentaries, both of you, about haunted locations around the Pacific Northwest. That is a hard thing to do because there are a lot of towns and communities out there who may not have the most proactive people involved, whether it's politically or working for the city or the town or the museum. How do you get into these locations, Jake, while you're trying to, ease everybody's pain that, we're not going to make a mockery of your place being haunted?
Yeah. So in this case, I want to give a shout out to our haunted historian, Melissa Becker, because she writes, I'll call them really good treatments, which is what we're going to go in and try to film, what we're going to try to capture, and how we'll portray the history of the property. And it's very much we're historians first. So if you actually read what we're going to shoot, it reads like you're going to have a history documentary. And we also put in things that we won't do. We'll talk about how it'll be portrayed in the video as well. And they can, the client, I guess in this case, you'd call them that, they can just strike something off of the sequencing, we call it, which is kind of the rundown of what you're going to shoot. They can take it off, and we simply don't film it. And that goes a lot to build trust and credibility. But, we send links out to the documentaries we shot, so they know how we do things. I mean, we have more than like one or two. We're on 17. So we have a track record of how we portray a property, and it's always very respectful. And it's good to have a portfolio like that to show folks if you're interested in shooting there. Also, if we need to pay, we will pay for a location.
Always. And one thing we do differently, Dave, with the documentaries is when Jake's done editing it, I'll take a look and I'll be like, looks great. Melissa will take a look at it, looks great. And the three of us will talk about it. And then we'll present that to the location we're investigating and kind of give them the final stamp. When a lot of other teams or documentaries, they don't. And that's where your relationships sever. That's where locations will be like, we don't need demon chasers anymore because everything's a demon. And the spookier and the more outlandish, big word, you make an investigation, it just ruins it for everyone. Like in my hometown of I'll just say Vancouver, it is extremely hard to get in anywhere because they're all A, locked up, which we've talked about before, or B, people have ruined it in severed locations or severed relationships because of the outlandish behavior. It's absolutely atrocious, that stuff.
How often do you run into that where a museum or a location, maybe a town bar, an old saloon type bar or a restaurant where they are like, no, don't even bring that paranormal crap. We had a team come in here and, we had hundreds of dollars worth of damage. I'm exaggerating here, but I'm not at the same time. How do you kind of go about that when you have a location that you want to get to that's been jaded?
I'll give you an example here, but I won't name it just because. We went to location A, I'll call it, and we gave it our all. We did a really good documentary on it, and it was all truthful, matter of fact, and we got really, really credible evidence. And we established a really good relationship with the property owner. And then 2 weeks later, a different team comes there or goes there, and they're basically having a party. They're not investigating. It's more of a social. And this property owner was like, if those people would have beat you to the punch, we would have closed this place down for good of that stuff. So to give you a percentage of how often that happens up here, I know like Washington, Oregon, and like Idaho is a lot more liberal than we are with this sort of stuff. But up here, I would say 60 to 65% give you a no right off the bat.
Oh, wow.
Is that because of other teams have ruined it, Merle, or they just don't want the reputation that this place is haunted?
Other teams have ruined it or fought over it or tried to control it. A lot of them, yeah. I will confidently say that. And I don't get risque and saying things like that on the show ever, but that's a hard answer for you.
have you ever had a location, either one of you, say, we don't do paranormal stuff around here. We don't want our clientele being subject to this type of environment if you're putting it out in public. Have you ever had that, Jake?
Yeah, it's happened quite a few times. I would say over the past few years, we've only approached places that embrace their haunted heritage. But outside of that, I would say it was about 50-50 if you went in and approached like a historic building. And even if they told you ghost stories, they're like, we don't want to freak people out. This is more so hotels, like tourism type places, versus like museums. They usually stay away from it because they think it will distract from the history they're trying to get across. So they don't want that kind of reputation. They still may own the ghost stories and the creepy stuff that goes on. They just don't want to publicize it. But it's not uncommon. But like I said, it's mainly more so with hotels, not wanting to freak out guests and stuff like that.
I can see that. I mean, the Banff Springs Hotel is very much like that. They've never said that the place isn't haunted. In fact, they really, kind of push the fact that, they have a haunted bellhop who still allegedly will go into full form and take your bags up to your room. He loved his job. There is the haunted room there. I believe there was some murders there, or a murder-suicide there that they don't, still to this day, don't allow people in that room because of the creepiness factor that's in there. But on the flip side, they will not allow paranormal investigation there. And I can understand why. Mm-hmm. I can totally get that. But does it happen with museums or historic areas?
It can. Like I said, I think it goes down to the message they want to broadcast to the community and potential folks coming in and visiting. There's certain things, like if you go to, Gettysburg, let's take that in the States, they totally own up to it. The whole town supports the ghost industry because it's good for dollars, right? It's good for cash. But I probably wouldn't do a Holocaust museum. Okay. I think it depends on the type of museum. Like a doll museum, oh sure, they probably jump right at it. So I think it depends on the type of museum and everything. But like I said, we do our research and we only approach places, and they're mainly businesses and museums now that embrace that type of heritage.
I mean, these are people, if they're working in a museum, they're seeing this every day.
Mm-hmm.
There's something happening. I mean, have you ever met somebody, as we got about a minute to go here, have you ever met somebody who worked at a museum that was like in complete denial of what the hauntings and supernatural was happening in their facility?
Yeah, they'll always be like, oh, there's nothing here. But there was this one time 3 Tuesdays ago when I was packing up and I saw this little ghostly child look at me and run away. That happens all the time. People, they don't want to be that guy, quote unquote, air quotes, to maybe sound weird or out of the normal and say that a place is haunted. But one trade secret I'll give away, Jake, that we do is when we go to these locations, Dave, we go with basically a duotang full of history to show that we know we respect and appreciate your location. And these are the said haunts. So yeah, people always will tiptoe around if it's actually haunted or not, but they all will eventually admit that it is.
Now I have to figure out what the American word is for duotang.
Yeah, I have never heard is that like a binder?
It's a soft binder.
It's kind of like a binder, okay, except it's like a paper binder.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. I had never heard that before.
What are those called in the U.S.? We don't know.
A binder.
But we will be back with Merle and Jake Rice on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to get into critical thinking next with these guys. I think it's a great topic, especially now that I'm an amateur investigator and researcher. I want to know what they think on the mighty SOR. All right, we are clear. Let's say a quick hello to Mark Sanchez and his collection of Hawaiian shirts. The Jaquetta, welcome to SOR Chat. Thank you for hitting subscribe. Look at that. Hit subscribe right off the bat. Boom. There it is. The lovely Amy WC. How you doing? Mark Sanchez, by the way, give us an update on what Hawaiian shirt you're wearing tonight. Always has a Hawaiian shirt on. It's awesome. Who else joined us here? Good morning, Commonwealth Andrew in the UK. How you doing, buddy? Skip to Malou. I believe she's in somewhere in Europe. I forget where she is in Europe. Remind us where you are in Europe, if you don't mind. Skip to Malou. The gorgeous and talented Kira has arrived, too. What kind of microphone are you using there, Jake? People want to know.
This is my favorite mic. It is an Electrovox RE20.
Nice.
Electrovoice, that's it. Electrovoice. Yeah. RE20.
The ferret, how are you? Skip to Malou's in Denmark. Denmark, she's Danish.
Ah.
Yeah, a good
Danish. Vortengorde.
Mm-hmm.
That's Norwegian, but it's close enough, right?
Jessica Lee, how are you? Let's see here. That was a good start, guys. Very good start.
It flew by.
Scotty B, what's happening? Let's see here.
Doug Shelby, he made a couple comments on the chat. The creepy lady. Oh, she's not creepy. She's just Victorian. She's on the other wall. I
will eliminate that question from my list here.
Oh, damn!
If you're answering it now.
I will not answer the other ones. I just wanted to. I know he likes an update of that. I'll just answer that one, and I know there's a couple other ones. But no, she and I guess her husband are on my other wall. But I've been half thinking of putting them behind me because everyone seems to like those ones. And they have less glare because they don't have the oval glass on them. These ones are a little glassy.
Merle, don't read the chat room. We'll save the questions for our audience to hear them on the radio.
All right. I just
Bad
like
Merle. You're being a rat right now.
I like seeing the chat right there. That's kind of cool, Dave.
Also, Dave, I had a feeder giving me the questions, so I'm pushing the blame off.
Who is the feeder? Who gave you the
I have eyes everywhere.
Jake, was that you?
Everywhere.
It was the dot, wasn't it?
Nope.
It seems like a dot move. Where is the dot tonight? Why isn't he in the chat room?
I think he's getting ready to go to the Oasis concert.
Ooh.
People go to Oasis concerts?
If they were in Vancouver, I'd be there in a heartbeat, singing along. I'd dress like Liam Gallagher. I'd have my accent.
Haircut?
Oh, yeah. Full 9 yards.
Can't stand Oasis. Well, of course you do. Of course you do. You like that classic rock at your age.
Easy, Nickelback.
Oh,
I like Nickelback.
Of course you do.
Sweet Robbie G, how you doing?
You look like a guy
How's
that would
chin
like
hair?
Nickelback.
Give us an update. I would say this. I would see Oasis over the Counting Crows or Coldplay.
I'd go to Coldplay.
I'd go to Coldplay for sure.
Of course you both would. Of course you both would.
Not Counting Crows.
Counting Crows are terrible. So how do you make your band more terrible after being a horrible one-hit wonder with Mr. Jones and Me? You do Big Yellow Taxi by Joni Mitchell and make it sound worse than the song already is. How do you make a song worse? Give it to the Counting Crows. You don't like Def Leppard?
Def Leppard's good.
Def Leppard's
I like
awesome.
Def Leppard. Def Leppard is like classic. How can you not like?
Def Leppard is the only drumming that anybody can do. Air drumming that anybody can do.
I was gonna say when I had Garage Band or the band thing, I would always do Def Leppard songs when I was drumming.
All right, big thank you to Jake and Kitty Caddywhack for the super chats tonight. We greatly appreciate your love and support. And here we go, the second half hour. Here we go with hour number 2 of, or make the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Let me tell you, we got Merle, we have Jake Rice, we're talking paranormal and ghosts of the Great White North. And we want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. I just got a note from my weekend host, Sweet Robbie G, after hours on the weekends. Our radio audience can't see this, but it literally says, any hockey talk tonight? Go Oilers? The sarcasm is very large in that. I honestly think I may be looking for a new weekend host after this. How dare
Don't worry,
he?
Robbie G. I'm in your corner. Oilers suck.
Yeah. Look at Merle. Pulling all the efforts out there. Oilers suck. Oilers suck. Yeah, Merle, your hockey team hasn't played in 2.5 months. Okay?
You know what? We're just going to rebuild, okay? Again.
The only ice that they have seen is grabbing lemonade out of the coolers at the golf course.
At least they're
That's
hydrated and we'll be ready for next season.
I'm gonna
That's it.
remember that.
All right, let's move on here as we continue on with Spaced Out Radio. And we are accepting resumes for weekend hosts right about now. Oh, my goodness. Moving forward, let's get into some critical thinking, because I know both of you are very critical thinkers when it comes to the paranormal and supernatural. What is evidence? What is not? What gear works? What gear does not work? Okay, because as we all go on adventures, and I've been doing this for a long time. I've known you guys for a long time. And Merle, I know you're familiar with Flight 21. Jake, you've heard us talk about it. It is different just going to a location. And I'm used to going to locations and just letting things happen. I don't care if it's on camera. I don't care if I capture a picture. I don't care if I record anything, because I'm very selfish. I'm usually there for me, just to sit back, relax, and have the experience of a lifetime. But now that I've kind of put an amateur researcher hat on, I'm trying to look at things a lot differently, which is, let's think logically rather than hop into the woo right off the bat. Jake, why is this important to have that critical thinking when you're out researching?
So I think we probably need to put some constraints around what you're out to achieve with your ghost hunting and your research. For me, it's to prove the existence of ghosts, and also get a good thrill. I'm not going to lie. Having fun is important too, folks. So don't forget that. And I will say there was also a time when I would pretty much disparage a lot of personal experiences, but now I view them as part of data collection. So set that stuff first before you go out. And when it comes to the anomalies, the world, like if you think you're having a ghostly encounter or something like that, the world is full of anomalies. We have electromagnetic anomalies. We have temperature anomalies. There's static electricity anomalies. So you can't look at one thing on its own and say it's ghostly activity. You want to have like 2 or 3 different types of phenomena happening at the same time. Simply because, like I said, the world is full of just natural blips and hiccups here and there, especially with electromagnetic frequencies. So I would say focus on what you want to achieve and gear your research around that. And if you want to have a personal experience, I may not be answering this directly. If you want to have a personal experience, that's fine. And I don't know if I would call that necessarily like official ghost hunting research, though, if you go for personal experiences. If you're going to see patterns, so say you could predict a haunting or something like that, then sure. You'll want more gadgets and more environmental collecting stuff. I go hard on the gadgets because I want to get every bit of data I can to say, is this legit phenomena or not? I don't know. Did I answer that for you, Dave? I kind of talked around in circles there.
Merle? How about for you with the critical thinking? Because I've investigated with you before, and a lot of times when I'm investigating with you, I just shut up and listen, to try and learn. Because hey, I don't know. I'm very quick to tell people I don't know how to investigate these concerns. And like we've had people, like even with the 3 videos that we've put up on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio, about something in the forest that Tim and I are doing, we've made mistakes. We're trying to learn from those mistakes as we move on. Like example, on video number 1, I actually, out of the corner of my eye, saw what looked to be a silverish blue orb about 3 feet off the ground race through the other side of these small trees leading into the crash site. I didn't say anything about it until after we were driving back. And I should have said something. I just saw this. But because in my mind I didn't know if it was a bird or if it was an orb, I just kept my mouth shut. So, and Tim said to me, yeah, dude, you have to be able to talk about that because that's kind of what we need to do. And we had an entire conversation about that. So how do you do that, Merle? How do you be critical with also being open to what you're seeing?
Unfortunately, I'm a super serious person, and well, sometimes, but when I'm investigating, I am. Jake tells me to unclench a lot when we're investigating. And basically, Dave, what we do is whenever we go to a location, we have an action plan of how we want to confirm or obtain evidence. And how we do that is with Melissa's research and Jake and I's tech talk or plan of action, because we usually kind of do the filming together and stuff like that, and we're pretty fluid with it. We will already have our gear handpicked for each. We call them experiments that we want to do, and we will also have alternate segments or investigations that we want to do when we're there, if we're not obtaining the evidence or paranormal activity that we want. And that's being a critical thinker, because you're going with a plan. If you don't go to an I'm guilty. Before, I would just go like a cowboy to locations and be like, I'm going to get all the ghosts with my blippy gadgets. And you don't have a plan, and you just sit there spinning your fingers, being like, well, what do you want to do now? What next? Whereas when you have a plan, and Jake literally has a checklist and he uses a pencil so we can adjust on the fly to if things aren't working, or if there's no power, or if there's some sort of too much EMF, we have to adjust to obtain the evidence, so it's just not a gotcha ghost. And that's where the critical thinking and being calm and always trying to be a few steps ahead of the game at all of these locations, because every location is different. You go to a building from the late 1800s, early 1900s, the amount of wiring that has been placed through there, copper wire, then they put new wires in, and then you have so many different, because no one takes it out, they just put it in there, drill another hole in the wall. And that all, we take that into account because a lot of our gotcha ghosts, as I air quote, is EMF or interference with stuff like that. And you have to be really aware. Like, we toss a lot of what a lot of people would call paranormal activity, where if it's not 100%, this sounds a little pretentious, but if it's not 100% to us, we don't want to have it out there because we don't want to have the chance of being fake or presenting something that isn't evidence. We want it to always be solid, and we're always thinking on how to do that. Long-winded, but that's kind of how we do that.
Okay, so when you're planning out your adventures wherever they are, how do you choose what gear? How do you choose what's going to work or what you think will work?
Yeah, sure. So we're guided by the history of the location as well as eyewitness reports. What we can find, I mean, I'll watch a crappy YouTube video, for example, if it's going to be at a haunt, just to see what they experienced as well. But the big thing is you using those eyewitness accounts and say the history of the place, it pretty much gives you an outline, but you don't really have a solid plan of action until you get to the space and you take your own recordings. And then from there, you let the previous witness reports determine what you're going to pick and choose for equipment. So if you hear a lot of whispers, right, you're going to have an audio recorder because you want to capture what that is and see if it's really ghostly or if it can be debunked. Let's just say there's a subdivision down the road, sound carries, for example. If you hear phantom footsteps, if you're hearing, can you measure vibration? So we've got those vibration detecting gadgets. And then we also have something that will detect movement walking along the floor. And that's what you do. You look at previously recorded information and see if you can capture it again, because consistency is important, right? You're building a case for a place to be haunted, so you need physical evidence. But the one thing that always happens is there's something new.
Mm-hmm.
And how I like to kind of, I call it like future-proof it, is I always try to get environmental readings, motion, audio and video, and I do personal experiences as well. To me, that's always been the iffy one because a lot of people can imagine things. Sometimes you freak yourself out and you get the heebie-jeebies, right? It's not, but if you get heebie-jeebies and you've recorded consistently high EMF and cold and you got an EVP at the time, I'm like, okay, you might actually have something going on. It's just not one data point that says you captured ghostly evidence. You got to have a few data points, I would say, before you can say it's solid. That's my bit.
I would agree, and also to further it, I like to cater to the ghosts, cater to the haunt. An example being when I was at the Washoe Club in Nevada, Virginia City, this past month, May. The Millionaire Club was within the Washoe Club, and they played poker, they drank whiskey, they loved money. They were rich men who made tons of money on the silver mines in Virginia City. So when me and Big Tex were there, it was just the two of us in the whole place. And one thing that I thought we could do is we brought silver dollars, because that's probably what they would have had, silver dollars back then, and whiskey. And I placed it, and they had that poker table on the third floor. Like, Brad and I played poker, like, we're pretty good at it. So we actually used the old table, and we just threw a few hands at each other doing poker. And I placed the money down, and he cracked open the whiskey, and our gears started to spike. Then our motion, that Jake's saying, motion sensors. There's no electricity in this building where we were, and our motion sensors were going. Our EMF sensors were tripping, and it was really interesting to play to the audience of catering to them by bringing the offerings, because maybe that triggers energy from the past. And if there are spirits, which I think there are, Washoe was a little quiet for us, but during this little segment, I think that kind of lured in or perked the ears of the spirits that were there, because it was a comfortable familiarity versus people coming in there with all this weird equipment, just saying knock 3 times to say you're here.
Mhm.
And I find a lot of our locations, like I have a ton of Victorian stuff. I have a ton of weird things behind me that I love to collect. And we will bring like I have Victorian mirror that we'll bring to 1800s buildings to see if we can if that'll work, because that's better than a home sense mirror to try to talk to people. And I find that's very successful too, to take the time to really learn about your location and who could have been there.
Yeah, trigger objects.
Yeah.
Tell us a ghost story about that interaction that you had. What was it like?
At the Washoe Club,
Yeah.
I was already apprehensive. I was classic me, a little jumpy in a new location, and it was really quiet. Like I was like, oh, big bad Washoe Club. You've seen every paranormal influencer and their dog investigate the heck out of that place and find a demon somewhere. And I didn't find one, unfortunately. But when we actually sat down at the poker table, we were just talking. We weren't even really investigating. We had the camera going and we had the gear set up, but we were just two-person poker, just back and forth, back and forth. I think we played 10 hands. The atmosphere I call it heavy. And when I say heavy, that means it gets cold. It kind of feels like, when the sensation I explain to people is when somebody's standing right behind you watching what you're doing, that feeling. When I feel something's heavy, it feels like there's somebody in the room with me that isn't living. And we kind of felt that. I felt that. Even he felt that. And then I have a motion sensor that was in the bar area, and it started to go off. And I was like, oh, hot damn, that's kind of cool. And then we invited something to come into the room with us, and then I dealt a third hand. So it was me, Brad, then I just dealt a hand. And I told whoever to sit there, and the gear was going off again. And even Brad was like, it is a little chilly in here. In Maine, in Nevada, it's not really chilly. And it was really interesting. It was interesting to experience that, especially when you're. It feels like they want to play with you, and it would be really cool if they could play with you, because getting that on film would be. Jake would be happy if I got that on film. So that's the experience. It's just 10 years ago I would have tucked tail and ran away from that because it's scary and kind of out of your control. But like in a sense, that's what you're there for, and that's what you're there to document. You got to remember you're a researcher and you're documenting these interactions for the love of the location, the love of the history, and being able to tell that story to keep the place alive, in my mind.
Jake, what's one of your more memorable stories recently at a museum?
So at a museum itself, I would say actually I've had a recent ghostly encounter. It was at my house. It wasn't with a museum. And in that case, this was right after we went to Powell River.
Ooh.
And you remember, yeah, we had some big ghostly activity at the old courthouse inn up there. And when I came back, it was just while we're up there, we helped move a dead man's piano. He had recently passed, and the new owners of the house wanted the piano out. So I helped move it, and I cracked chokes because I can be a D-bag like that from time to time. But when I got home, it was like the day after I'm at my computer and I'm setting up the blog to talk about our ghostly adventure, when in the bathroom, the light started to flicker and I heard shuffling, which, it was actually kind of a stormy day for us. So the flickering it was the shuffling, and I thought it was one of my dogs was like sleeping on the mat or something like that. So when I went to the bathroom and looked in, I saw an old man standing there. and he was probably well into his 80s. He was not in good shape. Like, he's wearing essentially a t-shirt in his drawers, skinny, and he had bruises on his limbs. And I was like, whoa. And he just looked at me and he had really blue eyes, and then he was gone. But the thing is, over the next 2 days, I kept seeing him like out in the yard, but it was during the day, like walking behind trees, and my dogs would be trailing behind him and stuff like that. So I thought it was the gentleman who passed away, and I cracked the jokes about the piano that we helped move. It makes sense, right? He followed me home because I was being a dick. Let's be real. I admit it. But when I looked up the death records with the help of Melissa, I couldn't find anything about the gentleman in the house where we removed the piano. Like, we knew the address. We went to the house. We knew the address. I was looking for death records, and I couldn't find anything. But when I saw him the 2 other times, he was wearing, like back in the 20s and 30s, the farm hands would wear like these corduroy pants and kind of this linen looking shirt. And that's what I saw. And I looked it up in 2030s, and I realized, oh, it's probably an anniversary ghost that came back at my house. Because when I looked at the plots and did the house research, the farms were there about 100 years ago. So I was thinking maybe it was one of the farmers that owned it, or maybe a guy that worked the land and stuff that had shown up. But, I had a creepy 3 days, and it stopped, which is appropriate for an anniversary ghost. They only appear for a certain time range. So that's my most recent encounter that I had. But he was not in good shape. He had big bruises on his arms, and his limbs were like twig thin. He was not healthy.
Do you believe he was a hitchhiker that you took home?
Well, that's what I thought at first, until I started, because I knew what he looked like and everything. And when I was looking for the names and ages of the gentleman that died at the house, it just didn't align to what this guy looked like. But where, in Washington in the 1920s, maybe the 1930s, you didn't really have like the same kind of property records. So I did go to the Thurston County archives, and I did look at the plotting of the land and everything, but they didn't have the names of the owners associated with it. So I kind of ran into a dead end at that point.
Right. The reason why I ask about the hitchhiker is when Tim and I 2 weeks ago came out of Flight 21, we actually had a hitchhiker with us.
Oh.
And it was one of the, I mean, Merle, you know how long that drive is back, and it felt even longer. Like we were, my symptoms were I was feeling sick to my stomach. I was feeling very heavy on my shoulders, heavy on my head. I felt like vomiting was going to happen at any time. I felt drowsy, and Tim was feeling, well, I mean, it's hard to tell with Tim because he's old. Okay, he's real old, and so it's tough to tell whether that's just his body creaking or it was an actual hitchhiker. No, I mean that in all due respect to his 84-year-old frame, but nonetheless, Tim was having eye problems with almost like tunnel vision. He was having the same neck pain, the strain, headaches, and everything, and pounding in his ears. I mean, we could totally feel that there was something with us. And Robin Haynes, one of our intuitives that was helping us that night, from her place somewhere in the South, she was able to clear it from us. But it was just weird on the whole hitchhiker aspect of everything, man.
Yeah. I mean, it can happen usually. So the thing is, the environment you were in, I wouldn't necessarily think ghost. I know plane crash had happened there, but usually a residual type haunting doesn't follow you home. So that's interesting to hear
there's
what
all
he
sorts of
experienced.
weird stuff out there, Jakey Poo.
Could be a portal.
All sorts of weird things out there.
Portal.
You just don't get one or the other. It's like going to a carnival, man. Where's the next ride? You know, that's what I love about it. That's why I'm saying that to taunt Merle because I know he's itching to get up here. I know he is.
It's a paranormal smorgasbord, Jake. There's one of everything
Smorgasbord
there.
it is. Gentlemen, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We got Merle, we got Jake, and we are heading to hour number 2 to talk more ghosts, ghouls, goblins on Ghosts of the Great White North. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. Merle, do you like your name?
I do. I giggled at it. I love that you're giving me a homage to the Stanley Cup champions.
I would do that for you.
Yeah.
I would do that for you. You know who's not a Stanley Cup champion? The Vancouver Canucks.
You know who's not a Stanley Cup champion?
Europeans.
Again?
What's it?
Do you know who's not a Stanley Cup champion again?
I know.
The Edmonton Oilers.
I know.
I mean, but
And
they
on
got
that note,
5
I'm
cups.
leaving you guys. You guys chat away.
Yeah, but still, the Oilers, they got 5 cups, man.
Oilers schmoiler. More like the Coilers.
I mean, I was rooting for the Oilers because I wanted the Canadian team to win finally.
Yeah, but all the good players on Florida are Canadian, so it comes home.
I mean, that's true. I mean, at least half of all the NHL teams are Canadian, if not 3/4, 80%. But
I mean, if I played in the NHL, I'd want to play in Nevada or Florida for tax breaks.
I don't think Florida's the tax haven it used to be anymore, but maybe Nevada. You know what? Washington, because we don't have an income tax.
You know what? Play for it's the crack. I wouldn't want to play for the Kraken. I'd want to play for a nice sunny. No, because then it's too hot. I don't like heat.
I mean,
Montreal.
Buffalo Sabres. There you go. We'll send you to Buffalo.
New York.
Yeah. Upstate New York, just as Arctic as, Manitoba.
Oh,
Buffalo, New York. You're not far from Toronto. You're only an hour from Toronto.
no one goes to Toronto. Where do you want to go for the next half hour, Jake?
I mean, we could do things. I mean, cryptids. I mean, I love my monsters. It's just I've only written like monster profiles. I want to go monster hunting. That would be fun.
Like the Ogo Pogo?
I freaking love an
Pogo
aquatic monster. I freaking love an aquatic monster. I'm not a fan of being on boats that long, but
It's just a lake. You'll be all right.
I know. A big lake. It's a big lake. I mean, we could talk cryptids and stuff. We can talk about haunts around the Pacific Northwest. We could tease the upcoming documentary.
Oh yeah, and yeah, we got 2 coming out. I
That's
guess.
right. I mean, I still haven't looked at your footage because I've been working on, the hotel. But I do have the main storyline done. I just have to put the history at the beginning and the credits at the end, and then it'll be good to go. I might as well just do that this weekend. Just crank it out.
Crank it out. Get it out there.
I've reviewed the best evidence. It's those damn dolls, man. Those damn dolls.
I'm reading all these comments. I'm going against Dave's grain because he's not here.
Hmm.
I'll hold on now. Tim Mothman, just come to Canada. You're welcome here. Just keep looking north. I'm waving at you. Oh, these guys are just hating.
I know. We'll just wait. Where's Dave? Dave's taking a slash and smoking a cig. I can name but I peed in the Yukon River.
Yeah. And then I just had a documentary come out that I filmed.
That's right.
I kind of was in it.
You were the director of photography.
I was the DOP.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the director.
Mm-hmm. DP.
and the drone operator and the
Oh,
sound
yes.
engineer.
Ooh.
Yeah,
You were the production, Merle.
I was. But yes, everyone. It was called Heirloom, a paranormal documentary. It was about my friend Lou and their journey of just. You got to watch it. It's really good. It's
Just
really
wait.
good.
Canadians pronounce the H
In what?
in the name of the documentary. We say, Amerikanskis say heirloom. But you
Heirloom.
said heirloom, which I would think was some Victorian era comb.
I think I said it wrong. I'll be real.
Okay. All right. I'm just making because, we were talking about pasta and I'm just like, huh?
All right. We got about a minute to go here. Hi, Adventures with Beth. Thanks for coming on in. And who else do we have here? Lubla, how you doing? Yeah, I saw Lubla there, Joe. Let's see. Anybody else? Anybody else? More than half of the Panthers roster is Canadian, just for the record. They got a couple half breeds too.
Oh, I reflect that.
Like the Kachucks. They're half breeds. Thank you to Jake, Kitty Caddywhack, and Deborah Rooney for the super chats tonight. Greatly appreciate the love and support. And here we go with hour 2. Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for tuning us in as we're having a lot of fun talking ghost ghouls and goblins with Merle and Jake on Ghosts of the Great White North. And we want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Cacadrosis. Cacadrosis is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's go to our main man, Merle, from Ghosts of the Great White North. He's also has his team called the Paranormal Road Trippers, based out of Vancouver, British Columbia, and he likes to investigate everything around the Pacific Northwest when it comes to ghosts, ghouls, and goblins. Joining us tonight, paranormal investigator, researcher, Jake Rice is here tonight on the Mighty SOR. Jake, I want to hit you up with a question here right off the bat, okay? And this is a selfish question. I know you do blogs and everything on your site. Would you mind if we actually stole them and put them on the Spaced Out Radio website as well for our news section?
Yeah, I mean, you can. And we got this little SEO thing called a canonical, so we don't cannibalize each other. But, yeah, sure.
Yeah, full credit to you. It's not our story. You'll get full credit and link to your website.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Because I asked you that on the air because I knew I'd forget. I knew I would. I'm that guy. If there's something like that, I'm going to forget that.
Yeah, you let me know if you want a gadget review, if you want a spooky story, if you want a ghostly adventure, you just let me know. I'll send it to you.
Well, Tim will just steal it.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll just steal what you got.
Okay.
Put it there. Yeah, perfect.
Awesome.
All right, let's get to some ghost stories here for our audience here, because you guys have investigated quite a bit over the last couple of years here. I mean, have you ever had an opportunity, Jake, we'll start with you, on where you have absolutely been scared out of your wits?
Okay. I normally don't get scared. I'm more of a whoa, dude kind of guy where I get excited about ghostly interactions and stuff like that. But I've told you the story about the black-eyed kids.
Yes.
And that's probably the spookiest that encounter that I've had. Now, with the anniversary ghost we just talked at right before the hour, I mean, that was creepy and spooky, and that had me feeling when it happened. I was like, holy, you know, but to be honest, I can't tell you the last time I got scared with a ghostly adventure. I was more like, crap, I didn't record it. It's usually what I'm thinking when something happens.
What about the story of you in the theater?
Oh, with the crisis apparition. I mean, I can tell you that one. That one was pretty. I mean, it's it's a personal ghost story, but if you need to know, I was living in Chicago at the time. I'm from the Midwest originally, and it was January 2010 when it happened. And I went to, with my other half, I went to see. I think it was John Carter of Mars, if you remember that one. It was big sci-fi bust, and we're in this cavernous movie theater. So it's the kind of thing that holds like 500-600 people, one of those huge ones with a balcony and all that stuff. And the movie was about to get started, and I sent my other half out to get the popcorn and stuff. And as I'm sitting there, we're the only people in the upper deck or that balcony area, I heard the seat creak behind me. And I was just sitting there, and I was thinking, someone would have to come up on either side. I would see them coming up. As I'm sitting there, I smelled like rose perfume, and I felt a hand on my shoulder. And when I looked down, I just remember seeing like a pearl bracelet and a big old rock of a wedding ring, and like that liquid red color on nails. And it was an older lady's hand. And she whispered in my ear, when the phone rings, pick it up. It's your mother. She needs to speak to you. And then it felt like she stroked the back of my head. And at that point, my other half comes walking up, and it's like, who's that? And then she was gone. So the lights go down, the trailers are starting, and the phone rings. It's my mother. So I pick it up, and my grandmother Jones had just died. And that I needed to go home to help with the preparations, because like I'm a thinking type person. So out of the family, I would be functional for this. And when I was at the funeral and I go up to the casket, my grandma and grandpa, they had the matching grave plot. He's on the right, she would be on the left. So I go up, and, I was just sitting there with the hands crossed, liquid red nails, pearl bracelet, big old rock of a ring, and she was wearing rose perfume. So
Weird.
not really a spooky story, but I'm getting a little bit of the feels, man. I love my grandma.
How can you not?
Yeah.
I think one of the creepiest things that I've witnessed was the day before my mother passed, not to make this a dreary type of conversation, but the day before my mother passed was watching her, my sisters and I were watching her have a conversation with my deceased nephew, which would have been her first grandchild. And they were having a conversation, and my eldest sister says, "Mom, who are you talking to?" And she goes, "I'm talking to Bryce." And this was my sister's only child. And she goes, "Where is he? Where is he?" And my mom pointed like literally right in front of her wheelchair. "He's right there." I mean, it was pretty cool, yet sad and spooky at the same time to witness that, because you only hear of people saying this is what happened, but when you actually view it for yourself, it's kind of amazing and creepy at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Grandma Jones has come back a few times over the years. Usually when my mother's been very sick, she was hospitalized for E. coli poisoning, and it wasn't looking good for a few days there. And Grandma Jones came back. So I kind of view her as an omen of something bad to come, but I think she's just checking in, to be honest.
How about
That's
you, Merle?
I was just gonna say your story with your mom, Dave. When my grandma passed away, as we continue to go down that road, um, she also was talking to relatives that have passed away. She would say things like, "So and so came to visit today. Don't you see them? They're just at the foot of the bed. They're here to talk to me." And then she would say a bunch of their names of people who she was talking to who died in like the 50s and 60s, and my grandma would say that they were just there comforting her, being with her, hanging out, spending time. And I've talked to a few people over the years. I've talked to actual hospice people, and oftentimes they say that is it, that's the last stage of before the person passes away, is they have like it's either like a memory lane, or maybe it is ghosts, maybe it is your family coming to take you away. And that's actually something that I would like to research further. Is that, would it be a phenomenon? Would you call it that? Because it does happen to so many people, and I can remember like vividly my grandma saying, your grandpa Merle was here, great grandma Viva was here, and we're just like, okay. And I find that stuff it's sad, obviously, because it's the inevitable is approaching, but are they actually seeing a spirit, or is it their mind? It's just incredible to think about, to be honest.
It is kind of weird, man.
It is.
It is kind of weird to think about. You know, when we talk about ghosts and we talk about, going into haunted locations, a ghost can be anywhere. It could be something that is residual, that continues to stay in the one location, whether it's a haunted house or building or even a park. But we also have ghosts that are traveling through. You know, when you got one of those spirits that is traveling through, and this is what I learned from my time at the museum, I'm curious, Merle, your thoughts of these transient ghosts that just show up, they're there for a little bit, and then they're gone, and you never hear from them again, or communicate with them again. Do you think that they are actual ghosts, or maybe they're moving on a different timeline and just happen to intersect at that time in your spot?
I think they could be lost, and we can use the 108 Mile Ranch as a perfect example based on its history. Um, you will get a lot of minor ghosts. Like minor as in gold miners, and they could have died along the way. They could have died coming home. Um, Tragically, the winters where you are harsh. It just gets even more harsh the more north you go. And I think sometimes there are spirits that are playing it through. They could have died maybe 50 kilometers, or what is that, 40 miles from where the ranch is. But back in those days, you're either on horseback or you're walking. So could they be a wandering spirit? And could they eventually end up at the museum, the 108 Mile Museum, or Likely Lodge or Quesnel Forks? These are all ghost towns along the way, of the Gold Rush Trail. And that's a good question, but I do think there are traveling spirits, because you don't always have to be an 1800s ghost. You can be a ghost from 2012 that died in a car accident down the road, and you're wandering around trying to figure out what the heck happened. Why am I here? Oh my God, I'm dead, type thing. And I think a lot of things like that happen. And I think, further using the ranch as an example, because of stories you've told and things I've experienced there, when you have that traveling ghost or that traveling spirit, a lot of times they're cranky, because they're probably annoyed that they're dead, because it's just starting to sink in. And you are communicating with them, but then you give them that soapbox, and they don't want to let you go. So they attach to you. Not like an attachment, but they don't want you to leave, because they're like, oh God, this guy can hear me. This guy can understand what I'm saying. I touch that thing and it goes off. It's blipping like a piece of ghost gear. So it's extremely valid. I do think there are traveling spirits everywhere.
That's very weird. I mean, how about you, Jake? What about the transient spirits that are out there?
Yeah, so I think it depends on the haunt itself, but if you think about theories around time and space, right? It's not necessarily linear. Some say it's a loop. So you could just be encountering someone from the past, which they think is their present. And you have that encounter, but there's certain locations that just seem to draw spirits in. It could also be in the case of a museum, right? They have a lot of, take the Bailey House. Very little of what's in the Bailey House is actually from the Bailey family. A lot of it's donated goods, so you can have attachments to objects that are in a location too. And whenever there's trauma, like you hear about from the Japanese, the tsunami, in, what was it, March 2011, 2012, the big earthquake there, and the tsunami wiped out town. There's lots of transient ghosts there. They're either looking for their home, or you hear about the phantom calls to the cabs in that neck of the woods. So, I mean, yes, they happen. What's the reason that they're just passing through? Kind of questionable, but usually there's some kind of hook to the location itself.
It's always kind of creepy, don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, you just think about it. I mean, I know at the museum we had one fun encounter where we had this ghost, and he was telling us how he went up way past Barkerville. He was just coming back down. He was heading back to his home country in the U.S. Him on yes, no answers for about 15, 18 minutes. It was a great interaction. And then all of a sudden, somebody asked him, a guy named Dan asked him, just an innocent question, where did you put your gold? Boom, he was gone. Not a response. Like, that was it. That was the trigger question. But it made sense, because during those days, if somebody asked you where your gold was, you may have been unalived very, very easily. You may have been beaten. You may have been tortured. You may have been, taken out in the lake and dropped. And a lot of people swam back then. Okay, I mean, like, there was a lot of danger with that. And this ghost just went absolutely silent. We've never heard from that spirit in the barn since.
Interesting.
Yeah, it makes total sense, though. Total sense. I'm just like, what? I'm out. Thief.
And then last year, my final one before we get to an audience question, my last one was last year when we had the possession happen of a lady named Jamie here. She went into this very difficult, manly voice where it was like, get me a drink, get me a drink. And there were some swear words in there. And she kept talking about her legs. She couldn't feel her legs. Her legs weren't working. And she kept getting more angry and angry. And I had to deal with that. I actually had to, in order to get the spirit out of her, I had to take the spirit into me in order to get it out of her, to clear her. Long story short, we were investigating a few weeks later, and Jamie actually called me and said that there was a young man, because she did this description of what this young man looked like. Young man, she said, between the ages of like 21 and 25, and 9 miles away on the hill, the late fall previous, a 23-year-old was killed and in a car accident, and his one leg was taken off, and he would have been, if he would have survived, he would have been paralyzed with the other leg. And it's just like, okay, is that the same spirit? And if it is, how did he get so strong and know his power to jump into another person or possess another person in order to try and get his point across? It was really weird.
Yeah, and now that I think about it, I did see somebody kind of this was a couple investigations ago. It was an event I was doing, And we were in the basement of the location, and I've seen this person a few times, and I know what they're like as like a normal person, and I say normal person because of where my story's going. And they were in the basement, and all of a sudden, something kind of took them over, like took their body over. Their voice changed. They're even speaking like a different language, and it was a WTF moment because it was like they were fighting inside themselves because their normal voice would come out saying, can you grab my pendant, like the religious pendant, and put it in my hand. And then when I went to do that, and the other person I was with tried to do it too, they would make it, they would grab my arm and make it so I couldn't reach their pendant. And that was bizarre to see things like that happen. And that kind of really was a reality check of be careful what you're doing when you're investigating, because if you're not in the right mind, or if you're feeling vulnerable, or you really challenge something, then the bad things can happen.
What can happen, Merle?
I just told you you can get something going in your body and make you be all weird and speak in tongue.
I was there to witness that.
Oh my God, Jake, you were.
I was there to witness that. I might have blogged about it.
Yeah, I was dancing around. I was being a little vague about it, but that's essentially what happened. Jake, you can go into it more if you like.
I mean,
all right.
Okay, go, Dave.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jake.
I
We
was
got
gonna
3
say,
minutes.
Okay, I was going to say, in this case of observing that and knowing the location, I think the person in question invited something in. That was not what happened, was not something that the location is known for. And there's no evidence or history of this ever happening before. So just watching it, it seemed like the person invited.
It was scary.
Yeah, it was scary, but that was invited in. That it was not something that lives in the basement of that building.
And your rant story of the lady made me think of that one to tell Dave, because it's terrifying to watch people go through things like that.
Yeah.
I think it's terrifying that when a ghost attaches itself to somebody.
Yeah, we're not invincible.
I mean, it's really great for the shot, though, Dave.
Oh, I agree. It's great for the shot, but when you're having somebody having to, pull the spirit out of a person and take them into yourself in order to cleanse that person, that's a little rough. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
That's a little rough, but sometimes you got to do with what you got to do. And this lady, believe it or not, Jake, was actually, I had a hold of her hands, wouldn't make eye contact with me. When I made eye contact with her, I knew it was her. But then when she shifted her eyes down to the left, I knew it was the spirit inside of her. And the more angry the spirit got, the more she, with he in her, started dragging me across the floor.
Oh, wow.
Dang.
Oh, this spirit knew its strength. It was. There was one point when that happened, I was actually quite afraid, where I was like, I don't know how to deal with this. What do I do? Who do we call in regards to this? Because if I call somebody religious in town to come clear her, it'll probably kill the tour. No pun intended.
Yeah.
Right? But that was creepy, man. And then when he finally released her and came into me, I was like, okay, now we can deal with this. I walked back to the main house, and I was kind of on my own. I could feel myself starting to get angry and rage, and I didn't let it out. And somebody came up to me and said, "How you feeling?" I said, "He's in me. I got to go sit down." And that was the start of the cleansing process for me. That was kind of weird. Hold on, guys. When we come back with Merle and Jake, we're going to take audience questions. Spaced Out Radio.
listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear. Hi, lovely Lavira. How are you?
Andrew Rollins, I'm super interested to hear your stories. Could you please reach out to me on the Paranormal Road Trippers on Instagram, DM me on there, and I want to pick your brain about your experiences, if that is cool with you.
Merle, your Paranormal Road Trippers sign looks incredible.
I know, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It does.
It's a great sign.
Where'd you get it made?
I had it made for me.
By?
Yeah, bye.
Prison.
By somebody very nice.
Orange jumpsuit lady.
Oh, God.
Orange is the new black.
Anyhow.
Change that subject, Merle.
Oh, which reminds me, I got to change Merle's name. Did you like Sam Merlehart?
I did.
Yeah, that was nice.
Now you got me actually sweating there.
So, Dave, with the spirit that jumped into you, like, how was it? Just human spirit or some other kind of wee beastie, interdimensional wee beastie out there?
No, it was the dude. Whatever was in her. We could only assume it was this kid on the highway that got killed, because there was a lot of the things that she talked about were very similar to what apparently happened, and I was able to get a good report on that from one of the local RCMP officers who was there. And he was a big fan of our ghost tour. He had done it a couple of times. And so I had him investigate it, and he let me know what had happened to the guy about the legs and everything like that. So, I mean, coincidence? Don't know. But it sure looks suspicious. But it's not a good feeling, man.
No, I mean, I wouldn't like. How did it feel? I've never known anyone to be possessed or
at
anything.
first,
like
I
that.
didn't notice it in me. Like I've had spirits attach themselves to me before. I walked from the barn to the house, and I was just kind of sitting out there or standing out there, and all of a sudden I started to feel, you know when you get those dry heave burps?
Yes.
That's how I know, is I'll get those really uncomfortable, weird sounding dry heave burps. And then I just started feeling really lightheaded and ill. And that's how I knew he was in me.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've had that happen a few times, no?
I've had it happen about 4 times at the museum. That was the most wild one. I mean, the dude up on the catwalk, he's got me a couple of times. There was one other spirit there that got me, and then this one. But, you know, in the end of things, you know, not to sound heroic or anything, that's not really the point. When I was doing the tour, I knew it was better if it was in me than in them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I always have people I could call right off the bat who can clear me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's just a little, it was just a little uncomfortable for about half an hour, 40 minutes. And then you
Okay.
feel drained. And then the weird part about it is the next day, you feel so hungover, like you just
Oh
went on
yeah.
a bender the night before.
Yeah, the paranormal hangover is a legit thing. If you have
It
ghostly
is. Yeah.
experiences, it's legit.
Yeah. But like I said, thank you, Debaruni, Kitty, and Jake for the super chats. Appreciate the love tonight. But like I said before, I mean, it's not a comfortable feeling when it happens, but safety-wise, it's better me than them in that position. Here we go, guys. We're coming back in about 12 seconds here. We're at the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. We're still talking ghosts with our main man Merle from the Paranormal Road Trippers. Jake Rice is our special guest. My name is Dave Scott. I'm the guy who will put a ghost in his body and just say, "Take me over." But they never take me to their leader. It's weird. Hey, I want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradios.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here's our main man, Merle. We call him Merle around these parts, from the Paranormal Road Trippers based out of Vancouver, British Columbia. He joins us each and every month for our paranormal fix called Ghosts of the Great White North. And our special guest tonight from Washington State, researcher and experiencer of the unknown, Jacob Rice. Gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. And by the way, Jake, you are a veteran, so thank you very much for your service as well.
No, you're very welcome.
Well, you're welcome. We'll pat you on the back next time we see you. Just a little pat on the back there. Just a little tap.
Yeah.
You know, let's get right to some audience questions here, because they've been waiting for a while. And let's start off with Jules here, who is asking, how can you tell if it's a haunting, telekinesis with a focus, or aliens?
Who's taking this one?
You take that one, Jake.
Okay, so with the so I'm not an aliens guy, so I'm not familiar with that kind of activity, other than, seeing the YouTube videos or the news special from time to time. But generally speaking, with a haunting, you're going to have some basic things that will always happen. One is you'll kind of have these heebie-jeebies. Merle talked about the feeling of heaviness earlier, like someone's watching you. You'll have random cold spots, but we're not talking like a 3-degree change in room temperature. We're talking a good 10-degree to 15-degree change. Electronics will start being weird, lights flickering. Maybe you have problems with the power. You're going to hear the footsteps. You may feel some random touching, something like that. But generally speaking, hauntings don't have like a telekinetic effect that you're probably talking about with things moving. Ghosts are pretty weak spirits in general. And so those are like the classic signs of a haunting. And generally speaking, because every case is different, it's something that builds over time. When it's a bit abrupt, that's usually when you have what's called a haunted object comes in, like you get a doll, teddy bear, you get some heirlooms to come in, something like that. Those can be pretty rapid onset, and usually you get all of those symptoms I was talking about. They all happen within 2 weeks, and they're pretty strong. Generally speaking, if it's your regular ghost coming around and haunting things and stuff, it's a pretty slow build, and you may not necessarily notice everything happening at one time. Like I said, on the alien side, that's not really my bag. I don't think I could really reference anything for you with that. How was that, Merle?
That's fantastic, Jake. I'll take
Thank
it
you
from
very
there.
much.
I'll say, Jake, I agree with everything you just said. As for the aliens or the telekinesis, that's out of my wheelhouse as well. I've observed Dave, because like we could talk about the fight place where I focused on the hauntings, but Dave focused on the alien aspect of there, because I like the last show we had, I haven't yet to have a solid experience. So maybe Dave can take that one away, because he could probably answer that part.
Well, Merle basically just is in denial of what he's seen and what he's experienced. And my big quest in 2025 is to get Merle to stop being in denial about the aliens he's seen, the UFOs he's seen, and the fact that the phenomena is all of one and not just in different parts. So, Merle, I'm calling you out on your hidden secret alien and UFO encounters right there. Calling you out.
Call me out. Yeet.
I just did.
I know.
I just did. All right, let's get to another question here, guys. Let's go to Brendan. Do you suppose ghosts are particle-like neutrinos or wave-like photons?
I failed.
I've never heard that question before.
I-
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Physics?
I've heard about the particle. I don't want to say particle theory or something, but if you want to get really nerdy and you got an ion counter as one of your gadgets, when we talk about ghosts manifesting, there's usually an increase in ions that accompanies it. It could have something to do with heat generation or, sucking up heat and stuff, but there's also talks about static electricity increasing as well. Because I don't know, if you think about it, if a ghost punctures the veil or something, there would be some kind of energetic release. And generally speaking, ions. I do have an ion counter. It's just the problem with ion counters is you got to have someone watch it, because they don't record how many ions appear and if they're positive or negative. But there might be a little bit of the particle theory. There could be something to that, but I can only speak that in general, usually there's an increase in ions when a ghost manifests. And that's pretty much all I can tell you about it. I wish I took my ion counter on more ghost hunts with me, but like I said, you got to watch them. They don't record their data. They're not like Eddie Pluses that will record for you.
I would say that. Have you guys ever detected radiation around ghosts?
I do have a meter for that. I have never brought it on a ghost hunt though. That would be something to look into.
I do have a new piece of tech. I call it the Parataco. It's like it's called like a wave shell. And in a nutshell, so to speak, is it measures radio waves, kind of like from microwaves, and it's a motion sensor. So that's a piece of gear we've been really trying to work with, and that's the one that really worked well in the Washoe Club that had no power. So it was doing what it was supposed to do in there, and I'm excited to try that. But like Jake said, with the ion counter, that would be something interesting to bring on a ghost hunt, to kind of cover the scientific base, so to speak.
Physical science, I guess, side of the house.
Yeah.
Many people claim that, UFO encounters, close encounters, there is radiation detected and can eventually burn onto people. The same thing with portals, that there seems to be radiation detected around portals as well. So I find it very interesting that I'm just curious if ghosts have some sort of radiation to them as well. I think that's something maybe to look at.
Yeah. And when it comes to portals, there's, I hate to say in general, But in general, it's believed that you're going to get a lot of weird swings in EMF and polarity, like a lot of positive or negative, something like that, more so than the normal environment. And you could also actually pick up the movement of wind and stuff because as the portal opens and the rush of particles, right? Ions we were talking about can create like a wind type effect from it. But usually there's all sorts of crazy things like your electronics are supposed to. It's kind of like sunspot activity, right? You get this big EMF surge and it fries your circuitry. There's talk of that as well. I can't say I've experienced it. I've only read it. So folks take this as purely academic, but it's thought you would get that kind of physical result.
All right, let's go to another question here. Let's go over to Joe Merle. What do you know about spirits that come by in the night and sit on the edge of your bed? I've heard about them. I've experienced them. Is it a relative just stopping by to say hello?
Probably. I would think so. I've had that happen. But there's also the lore of like the old hag and the hat man if you want to take it down a dark journey. And it could definitely be a relative or it could be an old pet. It could be a pet coming to set up on your bed. Joe, I'd like to know your story of what happened. I'm pretty sure a lot of us have experienced that. I remember when this is one of the only memories I have of my grandpa because he died, I think, when I was like 2 or 3. Was I was in bed at my grandma's house and I had made mention in the middle of the night because I woke my grandma and I think my uncle up by my shriek of I saw grandpa sit on the bed. So I feel that definitely does happen, especially when somebody just dies. They're kind of coming there to say goodbye to you, maybe, or check in on you.
We also know Joe has aliens.
We'll love a good alien.
I think Joe's got some aliens going on there, but that's just me. You know, I can't see anything else besides that. Joe's in denial. He got aliens. He does. All right, let's go to Marie here. What's your opinion, Merle, of haunted dolls? I know the Merle loves this subject.
Well, I had 3 of them, as you can see behind me, they are no longer here. They're creepy, man. They're. I was all about getting all the cool haunted dolls and all of the land, bring them here, and I will make my own creepy doll area. But I don't want a doll area anymore. They hold a lot of power. They just, as there is one up there. Contradicting, but no, the bad ones, well, they're not bad. The more energy charged ones are currently having a long-term sleepover at a couple friends' houses right now, and they're studying them. My opinion is they're real. There's Mandy the Haunted Doll in Quesnel Museum. There's Annabelle. There's Robert the Doll. I was recently at the Zach Baggins Museum in Las Vegas, and he has a couple really interesting and creepy dolls there from his cases that we've seen on his show and that people have given to him. I do think they hold that some of them can be a conduit to things. I do feel that it being a human body and such a personal object to people, and people will make death dolls that look like the person that passed away, that it can definitely hold people's energies and spirits. Do I think it's like the Annabelle movie? Maybe not that extreme. Maybe a couple dials down from that. But I definitely believe in them, and I do think they hold some powers. I've experienced it, and I know Dave and Jake. Have you experienced? You have a haunted. You're a co-owner of a haunted doll.
There are a few of them. I'll call it the uncle, Amy Beale, who's a member of the Ghostly Activities Club. Merle knows her very well. She's got a few haunted dolls. I might have subsidize the cost of those dolls, but those dolls are definitely not living with me.
I don't have anything haunted in here.
You need a haunted object.
We gotta get you something.
I have a haunted piece of paper. Okay, I do have one. A
What do we have?
haunted piece of paper.
Who wrote on
And
it?
for our radio audience, behind me I have a guitar with a sticky note in between the strings. And that was from one of our listeners a couple years ago. He went in our chat room by the name of Ethereal Aura. And he came by about 8 hours before he was about to have his doctor-assisted unaliving.
Mm.
He was like 42 years old, just a horrible, horrible number of years of pain and suffering with different diseases and debilitating medical issues that he decided to take the way out legally over in Europe. And I said to him, he came and chatted with us for about an hour after the show. He wanted to say goodbye, what the show meant to him and everything like that. And I put a note up on the strings and I said, when you're ready, try to communicate from the other side. Come on into the studio and move this piece of paper. He said, okay, I will. Well, probably 3-4 months later, the piece of paper, it was straight, just like a sticky note should be. All of a sudden, I heard some rummaging, and I turned my head and looked, and it was now from a square, it moved to a diamond shape. And I've got that in there pretty tight. Like, it's not just going to move if you blow on it or there's a wind or if I got the window open or anything like that. And it's moved twice since I put it up there. So I know who it is, but I'm just not, I don't know if it's haunted, but there is something attached. It's a more of a message than anything.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I got one more. I do have a can from Flight 21.
I do too.
Yeah. And I actually asked about the cans because these cans had nothing to do with the crash site. They were there from the recovery efforts where they just kind of threw them in an area. And so I actually asked, and on a spirit box, we actually got a message back. I said, I would really love to take a couple of these cans or one of these cans and I would like to be able to take it home into my studio. Would you be okay with that? And across the ghost box, we hear, yes, you can. So I was like, okay. So I took one. I had permission. But it had nothing to do with the crash site, just for clarity. Nothing to do with the crash site.
That's one of the ones I have, yeah?
Yeah, I gave you the other one.
Cool.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. All right, let's go to another question here. Let's go to Brendan. Do aliens have ghosts, or is it just a human thing? I don't know how we can answer that one.
Well, I know animals have ghosts because I've experienced ghost pigs once.
What?
Yeah, I never told you the ghost pig
No,
story.
you have not. Tell this ghost pig story.
Tell the
It's
ghost pig
pigs.
story.
All right, ghost pig time. This was Barkerville, circa, let's go 2001. I went with one of my old high school buddies. Him and I were walking up the drag, and I went by the old butcher shop, and I had one of my really, really old audio recorders. And then, man, I got to find this clip somewhere. Anyhow, when I got home, I was going through all my audio recordings, and you can hear me talking. I'm like, blah, 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 walking past the old Chinatown butcher shop. And all of a sudden, there's nobody there. Preface. I just hear pigs oinking. Like they're right there. And I'm like, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, is this actually happening? And I rewind, and it's there, and it's actual animal sounds, which was kind of bizarre because it was literally right by the old butcher shop. And so that was my verification that there are animal ghosts out there. But Dave may know about the alien ghosts. Do you think
I don't know if there's any alien ghosts. I would assume.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Let's go to Marie. Can a ghost throw someone across a bathroom? Or any room for that matter.
Merle, you got a story.
Me? I have a story?
You got a story. Well, I mean, ghosts shoving people around and choking.
Oh, yeah. I had a ghost. This was many moons ago. And we were doing an investigation. We've talked about this place on the show before called the Bailey House. And with my day job, I'm kind of curt, or I'll be very direct with my questioning. So sometimes that'll spew over into how I question spirits. Not so much anymore. I've kind of harnessed that in. But I guess I was asking questions in that tone. And the psychic that was with us at the time, she was like, her and her husband, she said, Mike, you got to change how you're asking these questions because the spirit in here is not overly impressed. But in my mind, I wasn't doing anything wrong. Like I wasn't being disrespectful. Maybe it was just my tone. But then, as bizarre as it sounds, I felt like a ghostly hand. It was ice cold. Place its hand on my neck and kind of squeeze, and then just let go. And then I tucked tail and ran out of that house faster than any Olympic gold medalist. And it scared the crap out of me. And I got sick in the flower trees out there. And when we came back in the house, we heard this really loud growl. And we kind of ended our night that night. Clearly, we had worn our welcome out. But even after that investigation, it spooked me so much to where I contemplated like throwing in the old paranormal towel because it got real. Like it got real and it got real quick. And I was always like, oh, that stuff can't happen. It's all in your head. But it's not in your head because it can't happen. And as for being thrown, I've never experienced that. But touched, 100% I have.
Christian McLeod, who we had on last night, talked about how he was dealing with a real demon one night. And he was at an exorcism, and this spirit actually threw him out of a second-story window.
Oh, hot damn.
Damn.
Yeah. He said it was the scariest thing he's ever been through. We got 2 minutes here, guys. Hillbilly Herb is asking, can any tools or meters help to ID a potential haunted artifact?
That's a Jake question right there.
Jake?
Yeah. So when I've tested to see if objects are haunted before. And generally speaking, like I said, if you're going for the different data points like a MERLE meter, which measures EMF, because ghosts are thought to create spikes in electromagnetic energy. One of the other things that I normally do is I use a lot of visual stuff, right? I've got a ton of cameras. I would set up a camera to monitor it for hours at a time just to see if there's any activity, like some movement around it. If it's on a shelf, if you see things moving around it, that's a good signal. Put a temperature gauge out by it as well, just to see what would happen if the temperature drops. Like if you notice, you might have heard ghostly whispers and you see the temperature has dropped. But probably one of the best gadgets you can do is put an Eddy Plus meter, which you can record, because it records all the environmental stuff from humidity to EMF to vibration. It's a good all-in-one gadget that'll help you. But I think one of the simplest things you can also do is if you got a compass, put a compass by it and see if it starts to move and spin, because that means there's some wonky electromagnetic energy around that artifact, and that's a pretty good signal that it's haunted. And it's not going to break the bank. I got a compass for like, I think $8.
Also, throw
All right,
down an
Merle.
audio recorder. Sorry. Yeah.
Merle, 10
It is.
seconds here. We got one question. Have you ever seen objects move on their own volition?
I have. I've seen a cup move across the counter and go onto the ground, and there was no water. This was at a pub in a place called Fort Langley, and we had asked the spirit to do it, and it did it.
Wow. Merle, good to have you back on Spaced Out Radio. Jake, thank you for coming on in. It
Always
is
a pleasure.
always great to have you guys here on Ghosts of the Great White North. Coming up next, Swamp Dweller and Little Timmy James with the UFO Report.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear, gentlemen. Thank you.
All right.
Matthew Merle Chuck. What do you think of that one?
Strong one. That's good.
I started strong with Merle Shond, ending with Merle Chuck. Thanks, boys.
All right. Take care.
Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Take care. That's Merle. That's Jake. And this is me. And we'll be right back. Miriam, how you doing? All right, we got about 90 seconds to go. I'll go deal with that in a minute. I'm going to sneak by you here. I'm going to go deal with that in a minute. All right. Thank you to Deb Rooney ×2 and to Kitty Caddywhack and Jake for the super chats. Greatly appreciate your love and support, everybody. Helps us do what we do each and every night. Fapster, how you doing? Shouldn't be low. The settings are where they have been the entire time. Normally when I talk a little bit quieter without emphasis, that's why it sounds a little quiet. But our levels are great on this end. Fantastic. If I jack them up anymore, I'm going to start, cracking. Don't forget to shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag, so make sure you check it on out. Here we go. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Cacadrosis. Cacadrosis is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Do you notice something wrong in the studio here? The Bigfoot light is off. I turned it on earlier, did I not? Weird. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. I am a mail carrier here in California. A big part of my job is delivering Amazon packages, and as you can imagine, my workload has increased significantly during the pandemic. As per usual, this has increased the number of strange encounters I have had. I have a few to share, but I'll start with this one. My current route for the past 6 months leads me through multiple subdivisions of large, beautiful homes, like swimming pools with hot tubs in every yard. Given the pandemic, I've noticed people, mainly older folks, have really taken to coming outside to talk to me across their yards. I don't mind at all, but try to keep it short so I don't fall behind on my deliveries. One of my favorite residents is an older lady who I will call Mrs. Lithgow, for the sake of the story. She must be well into her 70s and loves to chat about everything going on in the neighborhood. It's not unusual for her to report back that so-and-so has left their lawn unattended for 2 months, or that they have strange visitors at odd hours. I usually just nod and smile. The house across the street from Mrs. Lithgow was only listed for sale for a few days when it was purchased quickly. Shortly thereafter, my truck began to fill up with Amazon packages for whoever lived there. Mrs. Lithgow noticed right away and told me a week later that the packages would stay in their pile until nighttime, and then have disappeared in the morning. This didn't seem strange to me at the time, Mrs. Lithgow became further concerned and began telling me that there always seemed to be a lot of screaming coming from the house later in the evening. I hadn't heard anything, but my deliveries were always earlier in the morning. My first strange encounter was dropping off a stack of packages. I had loaded my arms way higher than I was supposed to. I was in a rush and was waddling up the path. I felt my foot hit something hard and thought it might break. I set down the stack, and to my horror I realized I had kicked a bag of garbage that had fallen open. Sticking out the top was a jar with what looked like animal body parts in it. They had leaked into the hot stone path, and as soon as I had stopped, the smell was unbearable. I noticed that there was also a creepy doll in the bag. I quickly finished my delivery and got out of there. I thought about calling the police, but honestly, I thought maybe it was just a fetal pig or something like that, so I talked myself out of it. Mrs. Lithgow approached me a few weeks later, telling me that she had finally met the homeowner. After the whole bottle incident, I was pretty interested to know who lived there. Mrs. Lithgow said it was a petite pink-haired woman who said she was living there with her autistic charge. Mrs. Lithgow thought it was so strange, and I couldn't help but agree that this young woman lived there alone with this other person, but no one ever seen them coming or going. I chalked it up to the pandemic and went on with my day. Mrs. Lithgow, though, however, did not. The next day, she came racing to the side of the road. I had to remind her to stay 6 feet away, but she was shouting that there had been an incident. Apparently the woman living in the house and the man she cared for had been spotted outside in the backyard. Kids were playing a few houses down and came running and yelling that the autistic man had threatened to shoot them with arrows and were yelling, "Do you know who I am?" I'll admit, I wanted to know more, but I didn't have the time to ask questions. Another time, she told me that pink smoke had billowed out of the house, and 2 people came running out screaming. After that, I didn't see Mrs. Lithgow, as she had left town to visit one of her kids. The house stayed quiet, and I continued to leave stacks and stacks of packages there. I began to notice, though, that the names on the packages were often different, lots of times just being Fat Goblin and other weird things. I once ran across into 2 electricians leaving the house. As I passed by them, one of them said, "That house is full of cat poop. Full." When my route was slightly altered, so their address was later in the day, I also started to hear the yelling that I think Mrs. Lithgow had been referring to. It was a grown man, and he was constantly yelling almost incoherent things like,
"Black. Mika's crying."
At first I thought he might have been yelling at me, but several times I noticed he was yelling before I even approached the house. I thought maybe it was linked to his diagnosis. Honestly, none of these occurrences were that weird to me, given some of the other experiences I've had and the context given. A few weeks ago, I had to deliver a package that required a signature. I had never actually seen anyone there myself, but I knocked anyway. I heard a small shriek and shuffling about. Concerned, I walked toward the side of the house, but still in front, and yelled, "Hello, I need a signature for a package." The shuffling continued. I went back to the front door to knock one last time and to leave a note letting them know where they could pick it up. I suddenly heard a loud, fast stomping from inside the house. I peeked into the glass of the door to see if someone was coming. It was a stocky man dressed in a spandex suit from head to toe. He waved a gun in the air. I stepped back in shock. I froze for a second, long enough to hear him yell,
"You're not safe here."
That was enough for me to get moving again. I turned and began to run. As I raced down the driveway and back into my truck, I could now fully see the man, holding his weapon, yelling,
"I shoot to maim."
I took off. I called my supervisor immediately, but was told there is nothing we can do about it, because technically, I was on their property, and he never directly threatened me. I still think I should have called the police, though. I began leaving the packages at the end of their driveway, and have not heard or seen anyone in that house again.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for a creepy story to kick things off. We really appreciate it. If you want more stories just like that, head on over to YouTube, type in Swamp Dweller, hit subscribe, ring that bell, and do us a favor. Listen to some stories. They're amazing. He's got thousands there for you. Time for the UFO report.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
Here we go with little Timmy James in studio for the UFO report. And, you know, it's always a good time, man. we're just days away here from getting back out there for number 4.
You got her.
Man, I'm
stoked.
I'm pumped right up, man.
I know.
When Wednesday, Thursday hits, I start getting a little bit excited.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking it's just around the corner before we go back. But, oh, man, we'll see what happens to us.
Well, we're suckers for punishment.
We are. We absolutely are.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of controversy in the UFO world right now, between Arrow and other things. And you wanted to start off with something here.
Yeah. So normally I do this on Thursday nights, but we're going to change it up a little bit. There is so much controversy, and there's so much arguing and not really anybody listening. So I've, again, sitting down and thinking about it this week, I wrote another piece, and we'll just go with it. So the question of unidentified flying objects and extraterrestrial life stirs a peculiar tension in the human psyche, a collision of wonder, skepticism, and deeply held beliefs. It's a topic that invites passionate debate, not because it's trivial, but because it cuts to the core of how we understand our place in the cosmos. Yet, as these discussions unfold, often with intense passion, sometimes with mockery, a troubling pattern seems to emerge: the dismissal of differing perspectives. The importance of respecting each other's views on what UFOs and aliens might be cannot be overstated, not because every opinion is equally valid, but because the act of listening fosters a humility essential for navigating the unknown. Consider the range of beliefs about UFOs and aliens. To some, they are advanced extraterrestrial beings piloting crafts that defy our physics, perhaps observing or even guiding humanity. To others, they are psychological phenomenon, projections of our collective worries and fears or aspirations, rooted in traditional beliefs and amplified by modern media. Skeptics might argue they're misidentified natural phenomenons, optics, weather, or experimental technology, while spiritual seekers might see them as interdimensional entities, divine or demonic. Each perspective carries its own logic, shaped by personal experience, cultural context, or intellectual disposition. I bought a thesaurus. To ridicule any of these outright is to assume we've already cracked the mystery of the universe, a self-confidence that stifles curiosity. So respecting these varied views doesn't mean endorsing them at all. It means recognizing that no single lens, scientific, spiritual, or speculative, holds a monopoly on the truth when it comes to the phenomenon we don't fully understand. Science, for all of its rigor, has yet to definitively explain every sighting or encounter. Spiritually, while deeply personal, can't be empirically tested. Skepticism, though grounded, risks dismissing evidence before it's fully examined. Each approach has its own blind spots, and dismissing one in favor of another shuts down the possibility of a more complete picture. The universe is vast, and our tools for understanding it, be they telescopes or intuitions, are still very limited. The failure to respect differing views also poisons the conversation. Whether a believer in extraterrestrial visitors mocks a skeptic as closed-minded, or when a scientist scoffs at spiritual interpretations as unrealistic, the conversation collapses into cliques. We stop seeing truth and start defending egos. This is particularly dangerous in a realm where evidence is often open to more than one interpretation. Grainy videos, or declassified documents that raise more questions than answers. Without mutual respect, we risk entrenching ourselves in camps, or like I said, cliques, blind to the possibility that the truth might lie in a combination of perspectives or in something none of us have yet considered. Respecting others' views also cultivates intellectual humility, a trait we desperately need when grappling with the unknown. The history of human discovery is littered with moments where the obvious was wrong. Example, where the flat earth gave way to a globe. UFO and aliens, whatever they are, challenge our assumptions about reality. To assume we already know what they can or cannot be is to repeat the arrogance of those who once laughed at the idea of microbes or distant galaxies. By listening to each other, really listening, we open ourselves to the possibility that the truth might be stranger than any of us imagine. This isn't a call for relativism where every idea is equally plausible. It's a plea for patience, for holding space for ideas that might seem outlandish or uncomfortable. The person who sees UFOs as spiritual entities isn't necessarily delusional. They may be grappling with questions of meaning that science hasn't yet addressed. The scientist who demands hard evidence isn't a killjoy. They're anchoring us to a method that's uncovered countless truths. The conspiracy theorist, the dreamer, the skeptic, they all bring something to the table, even if it's just a reminder of how diverse the human experience is. In the end, the question of UFOs and aliens isn't just about what's out there. It's about how we confront the unknown together. Respecting each other's views doesn't mean agreeing or staying silent when ideas seem shaky. It means engaging with curiosity, not contempt. It means admitting that we're all peering into the same vast shadowy cosmos, each with our own flickering light. If we can respect that, we're not just if we can't respect that, we're not just failing to understand UFOs, we're failing to understand each other. And that's a way bigger loss than any unanswered question about what's up in the stars.
I agree with you.
Thank you.
As someone who has been voraciously attacked recently online by someone, it's not a fun factor when they start to make it personal.
Exactly.
Okay, when a lot of these critics, they always look to take it to the next step. I mean, you know, I look at it like a hockey fight. It usually starts with pushing and shoving.
Yes.
And eventually leads to fisticuffs.
Yes.
And when you go down that road, there is nothing that, for a lot of these internet people, where they will get personal.
Yes.
And as someone who has experienced that before on a number of occasions during the show, look, when you're public like we are, you have to understand you're going to be critiqued. Not everybody is going to like you. Other people are going to despise you. They don't know what kind of person you are. They don't know what kind of parent you are. They don't know that some of these topics we talk about, we do them for ratings and entertainment because we're a live radio show.
Correct.
Okay, so our job is to entertain our audience. And some people just cannot get that. They want to make things personal.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you start talking about family, when you start making threats that we're going to destroy you and we're going to take you down, you're never going to broadcast again. I've had all of that.
Yes.
And especially recently. And, you know, this is stuff you don't talk about because you don't want to add fuel to the fire.
Right. No.
But the one thing, like when you talk about experiencers, I love that point that you made. Like, everybody has a differing opinion, and that's allowed. You know, I've always tried to stress on this channel, not that I'm better than other channels, okay, because there's some amazing channels out there.
Right.
You know, whether it's on YouTube or podcast or radio form. The reason why we don't criticize experiencers on this show is because we've never stood in their shoes.
Right.
And the majority of people who do criticize, take our Keith Andrews, for instance, he gets a lot of critiques and a lot of people saying, this guy's nuts. This guy is an idiot. Why do you put this goofball on the air? I've heard it all.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I defend him to the nth degree because you know what? These are people who, for the most part, they don't believe because they haven't experienced it. Sure. So obviously, if it's never happened to them, it can't happen to everybody or anybody.
Right.
Okay. Instead of just saying, wow, this is amazing. You don't have to believe it.
No.
But for some reason, we tend to get angry. People tend to get angry because they don't share your opinion.
That's right.
Okay? And it's difficult. It's difficult because it's not just about disagreement and having conversation anymore. I mean, people want to literally rip your throat out if you say something they disagree with or something that's so far-fetched. You know, I mean, first you go through the where's the proof, where's the evidence argument.
Yeah.
We have evidence. You're not buying the evidence. There is no proof. Okay?
Yep.
There's no proof of existence that UFOs are here. There is no proof that aliens are taking people. There is no proof on whether or not the government is covering things up. But we have evidence. Okay?
Yeah.
We have evidence. Me personally, from what I have seen with my experiences with UFOs, with aliens, with Bigfoot, with ghosts, I don't need disclosure because I've already had it for myself.
Right, right.
I don't need convincing. And this is more than just dots flying in the sky. Okay?
Yeah.
And we have too many people out there who just want to tear people down because of their differing opinion. What happened to dialogue?
I don't know. And that's what got me. Is I think what sent me into this tailspin. I don't know what you want to call it. But it was what happened to you earlier or late last week or whatever. And it was just like, and then all of a sudden I started noticing it everywhere. And this chat room is really, really good. I mean, we get a little hot, we get a little debate, we go back and forth, and it doesn't usually get like that. But I've seen it happen in everywhere. And it's like, what is wrong with people? Why can't we just listen and, like you say, have dialogue? And we don't have to agree and we don't have to believe. But you know what? Being kind to somebody and listening, and you might learn something. You just might. You never know. There's the humanity in it, right? And we're lacking it because everybody's behind a keyboard and behind a screen, I think, in my opinion.
And I think you're right. I mean, I go back to last October, and I'm pretty sensitive on this one. You know, because you were here. I went through a real bad bout of depression and anxiety.
Yes.
Really bad bout. And there were some dark days in there, but I kept doing the show.
Yep.
And then one day, one of our audience members, along with another host of a show, just came into the chat room on our YouTube chat and were just lambasting me and the guest. And I literally had enough. Like, a lot of people, and I'm not trying to say that, you know, I'm a crier or anything like that. You know,
no, I get you.
You have to, but my emotions got the best of me after that. And I literally was just like, why am I doing this? And then I realized that I'm allowed.
Yeah, of
and
course.
The people who tune into this show, whether they believe or not, they're allowed to have an opinion. We've always had on this show, we believe everybody. Because I've never stood in your shoes. I've never stood in the audience shoes. They've never stood in my shoes.
Right.
Who am I to sit there and say, you're full of it? That never happened to you. Okay? It doesn't matter how hard it is to believe. Look, you could tell when somebody's BSing you.
Oh,
you could totally tell when the exaggerations start.
Yeah.
Okay. But just because somebody has their own experience, it doesn't mean that they're a liar. It doesn't mean that they're making it up.
No.
It doesn't mean anything. How about just accepting what people have gone through? Now, I know that sounds utopic, but I'm very sensitive to this topic.
Yeah.
Because we're human. We're tearing down people over what? UFOs? People are doxing people on X over UFOs.
I know.
Or Bigfoot.
Yep.
Or ghosts. They're ruining their home lives. People are getting their employment called, saying, you know what this person is doing online or whatever.
True.
I mean, they're literally trying to 86 people out of their livelihoods over what? A podcast or a YouTube channel or a radio show?
My point.
This is what's happening, you know? And this is why, you know, over the last little bit, even though we talk about these subjects, I've really kind of pulled away and SOR away from those types of people or events that are happening. That's why we don't do X spaces.
Yes.
Because that's just a nut bar free-for-all. But great report. Coming up next, Tim is going to stick with us. We are going to really get into the UFO report right after this.
This is Spaced Out Radio, and your host, Dave Scott.
You know, I want to be clear on something. Like, I can take a ribbing.
Oh, yeah, I know
Okay,
you can.
and I could give a ribbing.
Yeah.
Okay, and to me that's fun. But when it starts getting personal, or when I see people in our chat room, and the group in here doesn't tonight. I mean, I know all the people in our YouTube chat tonight. They're not the people who do this. But when you get those people coming in and they're a one-off, and your guest is a liar, your guest is full of it, you know, or trying to bring up drama, like if you talk about. You know, if you bring, say, Rick Doty on as a guest,
right?
Everybody says, well, ask him about Benowitz. Drill him about Benowitz. Nobody drills him. He's been talking about the Paul Benowitz story for 25 years.
Fair
it's
enough.
irrelevant to the conversation we're trying to have right now.
Yeah.
Right? And you know, there's a lot about that.
Oh.
And why? Why do we got to keep hammering people? And the problem with this is my big problem with podcasting, okay, and YouTube channels.
Yeah.
Is citizen journalism is fantastic.
Okay, yeah.
Just like citizen scientists, citizen researchers, we need it. Okay. But the one thing that, like, on a journalism front, and I've talked to a number of journalists about this behind the scenes, the problem that we have with these YouTubers or podcasters out there is they don't have that trained journalism on how to ask a question.
Yes, understood.
You don't have to go for aha, caught you moments. You don't have to raise your voice and act tough to get a strong answer out of a guest.
Yeah.
Okay? You can have dialogue and conversation. I ask, a lot of people will disagree with me, but I do ask a lot of tough questions. I just put them politely.
I was just going to say, you verbal judo it, I guess. Yeah, because I've heard you ask some stuff, and I go, man, if you would have asked that the other way, that's pretty... But no, you're right. I get it.
I mean, every now and again you get passion. Like when I had Science Bob on the other night, I was passionate about that subject because I'm tired of experiencers getting screwed over.
But... did you guys tear each other down after the
no,
show?
Bob and
I
I have talked
friends?
3 times since that show.
Good. Exactly.
And we're all like, oh, that's part of the show, man.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Of course.
But you get these channels out there where they think they got to call everybody a liar or call everybody a fake. And look, there are fakes out there. I'm not defending the Corey Goods of the world or the David Wilcox of the world or whoever. And I know there are channels out there that go after those guys, and that's their business. That's their ratings. They're allowed to do what they want on their channel.
Sure.
Okay. But, you know, like, take for instance, when Marty last week started lighting me up.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
That hurt.
Oh, of course.
That hurt. And it stung because Marty had been with us for a long time. I don't know what set him off.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. But apparently he doesn't like me or he doesn't like my style, and figured, you know, that he'd fire some shots my way. And hey, that's all good. If you don't like me, you don't have to listen.
No, exactly.
Right? But on the flip side, you can ask tough questions without being an asshole.
Oh, for sure. And those are the best interviews, I find.
Yeah.
I find that when you don't have the pomp and circumstance and those gotcha moments, and they ask questions and intelligent questions.
Right.
Brilliant. Those are the best. They captivate your interest.
And
right?
the other part about that too is, you know, every show and you've heard me say this in our team meetings and everything. Every show has a focus.
Yes.
My focus on this show when it comes to UFOs and experiencers is, why are experiencers getting screwed? Why is the media getting screwed? Okay, it isn't about Spaced Out Radio. It isn't about Dave Scott, where I got accused of being a whiner and a complainer.
Yeah.
Okay, that isn't it. When nobody is asking questions, everybody bitches at MUFON. I like MUFON. They think that I don't like them and that I tear them up all the time, which I do not.
I was going to say.
Okay, but here's the thing with a group like MUFON. If we don't talk about it, it never happened. So are we supposed to allow these groups that are controlling the media, okay, and controlling who can interview who, are we supposed to stand by on that, stand idle on that while
No.
they control the message out there?
No, absolutely not.
And if we don't bring it up or other channels don't bring it up, that means it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And they get away with it.
And we're complicit.
Exactly. But apparently that makes me a whiner, right?
Well.
So it's just, little things like that.
Yeah.
We forget that real journalism has focus.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we try and do here. We're soft journalism, of course.
Yeah.
But we have focus.
That's right.
And that's what we try and do. Here we go, everybody. 5 seconds. We're into the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Great to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to remind all of you that if you've missed most of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. He's Tim James. I'm Dave Scott. This is the UFO Report. And, Tim, I wanted to bring this up with you tonight.
Okay.
Because
excuse me.
I'm going to curve the edge of politics. We don't talk politics on this show.
No.
But I want to bring this up.
Okay, yeah.
Because former assistant director of Arrow, Timothy Phillips, brought up with the Wall Street Journal and Stephen Greenstreet about how black triangles are in the arsenal of the United States military.
That's right, yeah.
We don't know where they're based. We don't know where they're recorded. We don't know what they are. We don't know how their propulsion works. Publicly, this is.
Yeah.
We don't know if they refuel or if they ever land. And if they do land, where do they go?
Yeah.
Okay. We don't know anything, but apparently they are in the arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I bring this up because 2 years ago, when things happened in the Middle East between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip, I was tipped off by somebody on the inside saying, within 5 days, you will see a black triangle appear on a video over the war zone. And lo and behold, about 3 days later, there was a video of a black triangle over the war zone.
That was a toe-to-so moment.
It was. Yeah, that was a real eye-opener for me.
Yeah.
And I remember I messaged this person. I said, how? And this person said to me, listen to me a little bit more often. Okay, I can do that. So I started thinking about, this thing in the Middle East is ugly. I don't care what side you're on.
No, exactly.
Okay, I'm not supporting one side or the other. I'm apolitical.
That's right.
Okay, my Oilers just lost. I'm heartbroken, but I'm apolitical. But here's the thing. I was curious.
Sure.
And so I called my source up today and I said, hey, man, I said, you had me laughing over the last time about these black triangles over Israel at that time. I said, are they over Iran right now? I said, how come we haven't seen any videos of them over Iran? And his response to me was, my friend, they've already been there a couple of weeks. Allegedly. Allegedly. And so don't be surprised if all of a sudden we see videos coming out of those areas of black triangles. So my question to you is, because I've always thought, and I've seen 2 black triangles.
Okay.
My question to you is, or I guess it wouldn't be a question because you don't really have any answers. No offense.
No, that's okay.
I mean, but I guess my comment to you would be, I've seen 2 of these things.
Okay.
One was massive, looked like about the size of a city.
Wow, okay.
Okay, the other one was smaller, but it didn't have just the 3 lights, the 1, 2, 3 on the corners. The entire undercarriage was lit up by silver orbs and orange rods.
Oh, wow, okay.
Okay. And this tripped me out because prior to seeing that black triangle with the silver orbs and the orange rods underneath, about half an hour prior to that, we actually watched what looked like a dumbbell UFO with silver orbs and the orange rod connected to it fly right across the sky into the same direction where eventually we saw the black triangle. Now, I don't know. I always thought that was alien.
Sure.
I always thought it was alien. I still think that big one was alien.
Yeah.
And many UFO researchers, much smarter than me, have stated that, yes, the Americans have their black triangles, but the aliens got theirs as well.
Right.
How do we tell the difference, man?
I'm not sure. And I think I've heard this, and obviously I've heard you tell me this story before. I'm wondering, like, I've seen the picture that Kira had that one night. The super huge ones, I mean, I would suspect that that's probably extraterrestrial. The smaller ones, I think, are just copycats. And judging by the start of a conversation I had with an individual that was also somewhat in the know, I would say that they are man-made, and they're, like I say, they're copycats. So the big monster ones, I don't know what purpose they would serve for a military, military purpose. I could understand the small ones because they're like jets, but yeah, that would be my take on it.
Let's go down that rabbit hole for a
Sure.
minute.
Okay, cool.
You know, because it's fun.
Yeah.
What do you think the black triangles are for?
I'm wondering if they are either, they're not dropping anything out. I'm wondering if there's some sort of a surveillance or a blocking system, like an electronic blocking system of some sort, or maybe even a control, like some sort of control that, you know, they can take over radio signals and stuff, or I don't know. But I definitely don't think they're a fighter. I would suspect, that's just my opinion, but I wouldn't suspect they're a fighter of any sort. I think they're more of a surveillance and a recon unit, and super, super stealthy with some extra special powers.
I remember a good friend of this show, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal in Washington State.
Okay.
He served in the first Desert Storm in 1991. And he said while the battle was going on, even though it only lasted a couple of days, he said that they actually eyewitnessed a black triangle over their area. Because Iraq at that time was completely dark.
Yes.
Okay? And it was one of those hot desert nights where there isn't a moon in the sky or a cloud in the sky. And he said that's where they witnessed this giant black triangle over top. Okay, and I look at that and I think, okay, is that what we were looking for? And if so, how long have we had that? So that war now, hard to believe, is coming up 27 years ago. So we could have had them for a minimum of 27 years.
Sure.
And the question is, what do they do?
Yeah.
My theory on it is this. I think they are there for surveillance. Okay. I think that they probably have, it's probably like a giant cockpit where you have more than just a pilot, co-pilot, navigator. You probably have 5 or 7, maybe 8 people working on that, taking the photos or everything. But let's get fun. Could it send down direct energy weapons?
Yeah.
Could it drop bombs?
Yeah.
How does it vanish? It's obviously stealthy to the point where radar isn't picking these up as far as we know.
Sure.
So where does it go? How does it just blip out? Because people have seen these black triangles where 1 second they're there, the next second they're not. Does it have the ability to use some sort of transparent skin that will all of a sudden blend to its environment.
Yeah, some sort of cloaking or something.
Yeah, I mean, recently there was a story told on this show about a triangle, but it wasn't black. It was like the color of the sky.
Yes.
Is that one of its cloaking mechanisms? Is it like a chameleon that just can change its skin color to the environment?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if it could do all that, where does it land? Is that what Diego Garcia is for? Or maybe one of those islands, those islands that nobody goes to up in Alaska?
Could be.
That would be a good place for them.
Sure.
Okay, where are these things going? And it reminds me of the conversation I had with that source one day, where I said to him one day, I said, hypothetically speaking, if these black triangles are ours, where do they land? And his response to me was, hypothetically speaking, what if they don't land? So what would be their power source? Have we reverse engineered UFO technology where maybe we're using some sort of plasma or some other type of free energy that we can carry these things in the sky for not days, years?
I would say yeah.
You look at an aircraft carrier that has a nuclear power plant. They don't need to refuel for up to 25, 30 years, some of them.
Yeah.
Okay? Are they using a nuclear power plant to fly this craft in the sky? If it's big enough, it could hold it.
Sure.
Okay? So if you look at that, and this is just the human aspects that we're used to seeing on a daily basis. What don't we know that could be powering these?
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then it kind of gets to the point of how far ahead and how far advanced are the skunkworks companies.
True.
It really is amazing. Imagine, because what he said was, what if they don't land? Hypothetically speaking, what if they don't land? So you would have to have some sort of docking station on them.
Exactly.
So that means they could hover.
Yeah. And what happens to the pilots and the crew inside? If it's what do they do? Just stay up there forever?
Well, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
You'd have to have some sort of docking mechanism to maybe a helicopter or some other type of craft that you could exchange pilot, co-pilot after time.
Makes sense.
We don't know. How
so
many
cool.
are there? Are there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Is there a fleet of them?
Yeah.
Like there's 20, I believe there's 21 B-1 bombers or B-2 bombers.
Yeah.
Is there a fleet of those? We don't know.
No. Sure fun to think
Right?
about, though.
Now, conventionally speaking, it should land.
Yes.
Okay? And probably can land, but doesn't have to.
Yeah.
If we're going by the hypothesis on that.
Sure.
It's just weird, man.
It is weird, but it's so cool.
What if it doesn't need pilots?
Exactly. What if it's a drone, like somewhat of a drone sort of situation? And when you said about dropping bombs, with that sort of technology, would it really need bombs? I'm wondering, like direct energy weapon, right?
Well, I mean, it could have, or laser pulses, or
frickin' lasers.
Frickin' laser beams.
Oh,
that's right.
I'm down.
Like, could you have a 300-foot or 150-foot drone? I guess you could.
Sure.
Because they've remote-controlled crashed aircraft before. They've remote-controlled target aircraft for missile testing.
Yeah.
So I guess they could do that.
Yeah, very feasible.
But I don't know. It's fun to think about,
I
though.
know, I love it.
You know, as I said to my source earlier today, I said I would just like 5 minutes in your head to see what your eyes have seen.
Yeah.
I said, I know you can't tell me.
No, of course.
I said, and this person, you know, I've talked to a number of people, whether it's random guy or NSA guy or you know, other people in the know, you know, John Ramirez or even Science Bob or others who have had deep top secret NDAs and clearances. And I've talked to a few more I can't speak about.
Sure.
But I look at that and I think, I would like 5 minutes just to see. Because I'm such an amateur military aviation nut bar.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been that way since I was 3 years old, that I would just love to see what they have or what they have seen.
Probably blow you away.
It would. It would. Probably things that we cannot imagine.
That's even cooler.
Yeah.
It really is.
We got 6.5 minutes. What do you got for us?
Well, I got a couple of small ones here. So, members of the Congressional UAP Caucus, a group focused on investigating UAP, were reportedly denied access to special access programs, not by Arrow or the Department of Defense, but by their own congressional leadership. Former Arrow Deputy Director Tim Phillips clarified that the decision to restrict access came from higher ups within Congress itself. According to Phillips, Major General David Abba approached House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer and Speaker of the House Mike Johnson to inquire about granting SAP and Control Access Program clearances to UAP caucus members, including Representative Anna Paulina Luna. The request was denied, limiting the caucus's ability to review classified UFO and UAP-related materials. This revelation has sparked discussion about transparency and oversight, as the UAP caucus has been pushing for greater access to information about government investigations into UFOs. The decision by congressional leadership to withhold clearance has raised concerns among some lawmakers and advocates who argue it hinders efforts to address potential national security implications of UFO sightings. Of course it does. Of course it does. So, interesting. Another one again today. It's just like the disclosure. We're going to be disclosing everything. And then they're even getting kiboshed by their own people. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Doesn't make sense to me. And like I thought at the beginning of this whole thing when this was announced, I'll believe it when I see it. And I think they're just a bunch of talking heads up there. I'm kind of almost over this disclosure thing with these people, because every way they turn, they still redact everything. So yeah, not super cool with that.
The tension seems to be so high there right now.
Brutal. I would agree with you.
I want to know what the fight is. Is it the fight that they're hiding it? Is it the fight that they are getting round answers that are just taking them round and round in circles?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? And look, I know people are sensitive. Somebody like Tim Phillips would be sensitive to the fact that Anna Paulina Luna is calling for the shutdown of Arrow.
Fair enough.
That's obvious. But on the flip side, the anger that is coming out of this entire topic, there must be a level of frustration that has not come out yet. Because the Wall Street Journal article really seemed to spice things up.
Yes.
It added a lot of pepper, to the vegetables there. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Because politicians are vegetables. Let's just figure that one out right there.
Call it an ace.
But the anger, man, is just there's a level of frustration there that we just cannot seem to fathom.
I'm amazed that they've contained it. I agree with you. And especially Mace. I thought for sure by now she probably even Tim Burchett. It's been, you can see that they're frustrated, but I thought for sure there'd be an explosion by now. 100%.
We got just over 3 minutes. What do you got for us?
Well, Chris Bledsoe, in a riveting interview this week on News Nation's Reality Check. So Chris Bledsoe, a North Carolina man known for his alleged encounters with non-human intelligence, told journalist Ross Coulthart that official disclosure of NHI is imminent. Bledsoe, whose life changed after a 2007 sighting of glowing orbs and other worldly entities, declared with conviction, "It'll come next year. I'm sure. I feel sure. pointing to 2026 as the year the world will learn the truth about non-human presence. Bledsoe described his encounters as both physical and spiritual, hinting that interdimensional nature of the entities. He believes these experiences are part of a broader phenomenon preparing humanity for transformative revelation. Coldheart challenged the lack of concrete proof, but acknowledged the growing number of credible voices like Bledsoe's fueling calls for transparency. Skeptics argue Bledsoe's experiences could stem from psychological or environmental factors, a point Coldheart raised. Yet Bledsoe's predictions for disclosure in 2026 amid rising congressional scrutiny and public interest in UFOs adds intrigue to the ongoing debate. Whether his forecast holds, the interview underscores the urgency and mystery surrounding the questions of non-human intelligence. So he's yelling 2026. We've heard 2027.
We've heard a lot of predictions over the years. I like Chris Bledsoe.
So
he
do
is
I.
a nice man. He is a very nice man. But if that's what he's getting in his predictions, maybe it happens. Maybe it doesn't. If he's wrong, everybody in the world will let him know he's wrong, because
Sure.
the one thing that is so unsettling is predictions when it comes to things like this never come true. Just like I don't believe 2017 or 2027 is going to come true, I don't see that this will come true either. It may come for him.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
okay. And this is where we got the divide. The contact may come for him.
Right.
It may not come for the rest of us.
Yeah.
It may come for other people. It may not come for the majority of us. So is that lying? Is that deceit on the date? I don't know. I don't think so.
No.
But it is what it is. Tim, thank you very much, my friend, for coming on Spaced Out Radio.
Always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure to have you on the show, and I'm so looking forward to getting back to work on Saturday night out in the forest. It's going to be a lot of fun. Once again, and the best part about it is you just never know what to expect. Never. It's amazing. Thank you to everybody tuning us in tonight as we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Make that Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you for sharing your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Well, that was fun.
That was awesome. That was fun.
That was a great UFO report, man.
Thank you, sir. No, I had fun with it today. And I love it when we just kind of went off on what ifs.
Oh, man. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
CS, thank you for that amazing super chat right at the end. Really appreciate that. And for the rest of you, tomorrow night on the show, Trey Hudson is going to be here. We're talking about the Meadow Project. Portals. Bigfoot, and more. It's going to be a great show. Thank you to CS, Debaruni with a hat trick, Kitty, and Jakob with the super chats. Thank you to all our new subscribers for coming on in. Don't forget to find us on social media as well. I will see you all tomorrow night. I've got some things I need to take care of here, and I'm tired. I am. So we will talk to you very, very soon, everybody. Like, what time? Like 21 hours from now?
Yeah.
21 hours. Okay, we're out. Bye.
Bye.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.